Hello and welcome to Comics with Friends, the bi-weekly podcast where two best buds get together, read a comic, talk about what they love about the comic, what they didn't like so much about the comic, and maybe along the way, tell just a few funny jokes. I am your host, Ethan, joined today by my best bud and co-host, Mason. And today we are covering Green Lantern Secret Origins by our good buddy, Jeff Johns. And drawn by Ivan Rice.
He keeps showing up.
He keeps showing up in every episode. He's going to show up. We're exclusively only going to cover Jeff Johns stories now.
We'd run out of things to read after a while.
Oh, yeah. So what's up?
I'm fueled by my good old friends, caffeine and nicotine, so I'm ready to get into this.
All right. I guess we can just get straight into this. Maybe a little bit of history.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this, Mason, but my favorite superhero is Green Lantern.
I had no idea.
Hal Jordan specifically is my favorite Green Lantern. Really cool character. You have not read a single Green Lantern story.
My first exposure.
Kind of interesting. This is your first exposure to it.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of history on the character. So Hal Jordan is the second Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
The first one being Alan Scott, who actually has nothing to do with like the Green Lantern mythos, like the modern Green Lantern mythos. Alan Scott is like magic based. He gets his power from the green,
which is like not the rain.
Yeah, not like willpower.
Yeah. Okay.
And the green in the DC universe is nature. It's like where Poison Ivy gets her power from. Yeah, because there's different forces in the world. There's the green, which is Swamp Thing, Alan Scott, and then the red, which is like Beast Boy, Vixen. They get their powers.
So they've color coded all the heroes.
Essentially, yeah. Like Solomon Grundy, he gets his power from the black, which represents death. The red represents animals.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, the Green Lantern's the second. Or Hal Jordan Green Lantern is the second Green Lantern. He was created in the Silver Age of comics in 1959. He was created by Julius Schwartz in kind of an effort to reinvigorate like their characters, because around that time, World War II had ended, obviously. Comic books were starting to like really fall to the wayside. People, that is my alarm to tell me to wake up. People had just kind of stopped caring about these heroes, and some of the heroes that had really fallen off were like Flash and Green Lantern,
right? Because
at that time it wasn't Barry Allen the Flash, it was Jake Garrick the Flash. An old dude, just is really swift.
He's got the frying pan for a helmet.
Oh yeah, he's got the frying pan as a helmet. So they really wanted to make the characters relate to what was going on in the culture at the time, which obviously in like the 50s and 60s, a big thing was like science fiction and like spacefaring stuff. And so, they reinvented Green Lantern, made Hal Jordan, made him into a space cop. And it's been history ever since. Hal Jordan has been the mainstay, character of Green Lantern for, since 59.
I mean, I would think for a stint there, Jon Stewart kind of became the face for a minute, and that's just me growing up watching like Justice League and stuff like that.
And you would not be wrong in that. It's a story we'll cover in the future, because eventually we will cover many, many, many Green Lantern stories. That is because in the 90s, I don't know if you remember a little event called Death of Superman.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I've explained it to you before, but when they killed off Superman and the huge success from that, they were like, oh shit,
we kill them all.
We need to do that to all of our heroes.
Yeah.
Because at the big time, their big competitor was Image. And so they were like, okay, well, we're going to kill Superman. We're going to replace him with 4 different Supermen, and we're going to see which one sticks. And each one was like an edgier, like more like ruthless version of Superman. Each one did something different. Well, they were like, okay, well, we're going to do that to Batman. We're going to replace him with Azrael. And this Batman kills. He's not afraid of killing villains.
I like Azrael, though.
Wonder Woman, we're not going to talk about that because they were going to, they were just going to mess that character up. And for Green Lantern, they said, okay, well, we killed Superman, we broke Batman, let's make Hal Jordan into a villain.
Yeah.
And they did. They turned Hal Jordan into a villain. He became Parallax. And then in an event called Final Night, the sun was going to be extinguished by an extra-dimensional being that was eating the sun. And right as the sun went out, Hal Jordan had a change of heart and reignited the sun, sacrificing his life, and he died. So from the 90s all the way up until 2004, Hal Jordan was dead.
Yeah.
In that time, Kyle Rayner was Green Lantern. That's the younger artist, Green Lantern. And in the early 2000s, they really wanted to push Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
And so in the early 2000s and in the TV show, the Justice League animated TV show, Jon Stewart was the main Green Lantern in those. So there's a reason why there's a lot of people from our generation who don't really know that Hal Jordan exists or don't have that connection with Hal Jordan, because when we were growing up, he wasn't around.
Yeah.
The first exposure people from our generation had to Hal Jordan was the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Yeah.
That is the first exposure people really had to that character.
That, I mean, technically my first exposure was the Justice League animated TV show, because I absolutely loved, for whatever reason, it aired on Cartoon Network and Boomerang at a certain time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that at all.
Yeah.
But that was my first exposure. And then I remember when the Ryan Reynolds movie came out, I was like, oh, it's the guy from Justice League, but he's not black.
Yeah, why is he white?
Yeah, well, that's weird. So we'll go check it out,
Yeah.
And the most impressive thing I took away from that movie was the fact that Ryan Reynolds' career didn't die.
Yeah.
On the spot.
I think there's interviews about that where he's like, yeah, my career should have died.
Yeah, I mean, he made fun of it in Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like, he's openly, talked about how much that movie sucked at.
Oh, yeah. Hey, yeah. I agree with it 100%. It's like they tried to take 5 different storylines and cram them all.
I remember jack shit about that movie.
I remember everything.
That's your Vietnam.
Yeah. I remember everything about that movie.
You got PTSD of watching that movie.
Yeah.
I don't remember a fucking thing of it.
So, this story, Secret Origins, obviously it follows the same structure of Superman's Secret Origin. Which is funny enough because it is written by Jeff Johns as well.
Yep.
Who wrote Superman Secret Origin. This one's a little bit different, where Superman Secret Origins kind of took place outside of your regularly scheduled Superman comics. It was just a retelling of Superman's origin. This takes place, it starts on issue 39, or not 39, 29, sorry, and ends issue 35, 36 or 35, one of those two. And this is in the middle of his run on Green Lantern.
Interesting.
Yeah, this takes place at the halfway point. This takes place right before Blackest Night.
So is this if you take the whole run, is this supposed to be a flashback section of how he became Green Lantern, or?
Well, you can tell it's obviously a retelling of how he became Green Lantern, because this whole story is punctuated by thought boxes.
Yeah.
But they're in the style of a notebook. It's on notebook paper. Yeah. So he's writing it down. Which is a huge theme in this story, is Jordan trying to figure out how to tell people how he feels.
Yeah.
And the best way he can do that is by writing it down. And I guess you could say this is basically a flashback.
Yeah.
What this is John's setting up Blackest Night, because there are characters in here that play major roles in that story.
And also, they fucking refer to it.
Yeah.
In it.
Yeah.
that's one of the major.
Right. I mean, it's one of the major points of this story. You don't know what Blackest Night is, do you?
Other than it's in their Power Rangers
Oath.
Yeah, and that's really all I know. So I mean, you've talked about it before,
yeah. So
stuff, but that's really
so. Blackest Night was an idea created by Alan Moore, who did a short story. I believe it was in a comic called Tales of the Green Lantern Corps, where it's literally just a prophecy about like the darkest day that the Lantern Corps will ever go through.
Right.
And Blackest Night is a zombie book.
Oh,
it's zombies, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Black Lanterns are zombies.
That's kind of lame.
It's really cool.
Is it?
Because they're not just like zombies in the sense of like they're mindless and they bite you and you get turned.
Yeah.
They're like sadistic. They look like zombies, like zombie versions of the characters, but they're sadistic versions of themselves.
Okay.
So like
they're I wouldn't say they're undead.
Yeah, they're undead. So for example, spoiler alert, Martian Manhunter is dead during Blackest Night, and he's one of the first characters to come back. And Martian Manhunter, we know the character. He's like kind-hearted. He's very soft-spoken. Like he's
not
like
this.
Yeah. In Blackest Night, he's like a sadistic, like he jokes and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking murder you," and he's like, he goes all out on Hal Jordan and Barry Allen when he finds them.
And then he goes fucks a white version.
It is really good.
Yeah.
Blackest Night. When we cover Blackest Night, I think you're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, you've talked up Blackest Night a bunch of times to me, so I mean, so far your taste has been, pretty in line with mine, except for maybe Superman.
Superman was a great story.
It was okay. Overall, it was good. I mean, like I said in that episode, that the second issue where they go to the future and stuff, I was like,
you weren't about it.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah. So this origin story takes place, or I guess it was created after the events of Infinite Crisis. Of course, I've explained Crisis to you.
Yeah.
This is the one where Superboy Prime punches reality and it just changes everything.
He's just built different.
Yeah, he's just built different. He's really strong. And yeah, this was just Jeff Johns' way of being like, okay, I'm updating Hal Jordan's origin.
Yeah.
To make it more in line with what I'm doing. Because Jeff Johns wrote Green Lantern for like 10 years.
Yeah. One thing, one thing I wasn't a super big fan of this book was the fact that I felt like it had a beginning, like, but then it didn't really feel like it had an ending.
I can understand that. And I think that's because it's not a standalone story.
It's in the run.
It's in the run, and you're supposed to read it in conjunction with everything else.
Yeah.
I will also say, okay, so this obviously is not the first origin story for Hal Jordan. There is another one that is a post-crisis, like Crisis on Infinite Earths origin from the 80s called Emerald Dawn. And that one is also a telling of how Hal Jordan got the ring. I would say Hal Jordan is not really likable in that story. Well, it has a sequel called Emerald Dawn 2, where he meets Sinestro, he becomes friends with Sinestro, and then he finds out that Sinestro is not necessarily a good person, and then they fight. This story kind of, the way it ends, it kind of reads like that sequel is still canon, and you're supposed to read it after this.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how it feels to me.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the telling of how Sinestro basically falls to, the Yellow Lantern ring.
I think, let me just go ahead and give my broad impression. Originally, I was going to do a bit where I acted like I hated it. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I had fun reading it. But at the same time, like, I didn't necessarily feel... What's the word that I'm thinking of? I wouldn't say I wasn't fulfilled, but it just felt like events happened, and that was really it. Like, it didn't feel like I understand the point of it. Like, you meet Sinestro, and it's Hal learning how to be a Green Lantern and things like that. But But I guess maybe it's just my brain is wired to, like, you know, you have the beginning, you have conflict, conflict's resolved, you have the ending.
Okay.
This, it didn't really feel like I had that. It had a lot of it posed a lot of questions and a lot of things to think about for like future stuff. And maybe these issues of mine would go away if I kept reading. Right,
yeah.
If I kept reading past this. But it just felt like, okay, like they're setting up. Okay, I guess I have to keep reading after this book to get any kind of payoff.
And I think that's the thing. The context you have to look at it in is that this is a part of a run.
Yeah.
And this does set up Blackest Night.
I'm sure if I took the whole thing in context, I'd enjoy it a lot more. But just
as like a standalone,
it was enjoyable. I didn't hate reading it, but I wasn't like
blown away by it.
This is not... I wouldn't say it makes me feel like, man, I don't want to read Green Lantern, but it also wasn't like hooking me to be like, you got to read more Green Lantern.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I understand that.
I'm interested in the Blackest Night stuff because that's also just from you talking about it before, and obviously they reference it a little bit in here. So I'm like, I am kind of curious about what that leads to.
Yeah.
But other than that, like the stuff like with William
Hand.
Yeah, like I was like, there wasn't enough kind of like detail there. So I'm like, I don't know why I'm necessarily caring about William. Like he's the start of whatever. Like why it just I don't know. It just, like I said, I didn't hate it. It just felt like I was reading something and they were telling me stuff and like they expected me to like care about it.
They expect you to already kind of know about it because it's being talked about in the current run.
Right.
Well, I can understand that.
Again, it's just because I'm taking it as a standalone rather than as the run.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. I don't necessarily have the same feelings on it, but again, like, see, I have to temper myself because like Hal Jordan's my favorite character, but also I've read this. Like I've read this storyline like multiple times at this point. So like I know what happens before and after this like story. I know about the character. I know the character inside and out. That kind of deal.
I'm going.
So I don't feel as like, I wouldn't say you even really feel negative about it. It's just I don't feel that same like unfulfillment. I guess. Because I do feel like this story has a beginning, middle, and end. I feel like it's less about the action and more about the character.
I would agree with that, but it boils down to the fact that this is not a standalone project.
Yeah.
That's really
it's a continuation.
Yeah, that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a start and end with what's that demon's name?
Atrocitus.
Yeah, Atrocitus. Technically, there's like a beginning and an end and conflict resolution with him.
Yeah,
but everything else in it, except for maybe his personal kind of growth, but everything else is just set up.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's a lot of it is set up that is going to take a while to pay off.
Yeah,
because we won't get to Blackest Night for a while.
Yeah,
so.
But besides that, I enjoyed my time reading it. It was fun. Yeah, I mean, that's really the only negative thing I can say about it.
Yeah.
And it's not even really that negative.
Yeah. All right, so I think it's about time we finally get into this story.
Yeah.
So we open up this story with a entry in Hal's journal and some really, really nice artwork. Ivan Rice really knocks it out of the ballpark. And the
art was really good.
He is a mainstay, like, Green Lantern artist for Jeff Johns' run, and it really shows like just how talented he is. But it's a entry from Hal's journal basically saying, you know, what are you afraid of? And he talks about how this is a question that he gets from people all the time, like people that he saves, civilians, that kind of stuff. And he says that they always expect the answer nothing, And he says, sometimes I entertain that idea just so that way they have the satisfaction, but they're wrong. And he says that the ring gives him the power to do anything, and that people believe that. And he says, but they're wrong about that too. And he was like, before I was given the greatest weapon in the universe, I was just a scared little boy. And, you know, he said that his dad gave him the power to be anything he wanted to be. And then we get the flashback of Hal Jordan as a kid at Ferris Air, watching his father fly an experimental jet. And this is the origin of Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan is a test pilot.
I will say that even just in that beginning page, I really like the fact that it sets up two things for Green Lantern that I feel are kind of, from my knowledge, kind of Homestay's core elements of Green Lantern, and that is the concept of fear. So like the Yellow Lanterns, one of their major kind of opposition, their ops, and that Green Lantern's imagination is like, obviously it's their willpower, but he uses his imagination as like kind of his weapon.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes stuff out of his willpower and everything like that. So I think I'd like that just that one page alone already sets the seeds up for two major concepts for Green Lantern.
And I will say Jeff Johns really plays into the idea of fear in his run on Green Lantern, especially towards the beginning. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens to Hal, you know, between his origin and when Jeff Johns takes over. Obviously, Hal Jordan falls and he becomes a villain, and then he sacrifices himself to save Earth. You know, he kind of redeems himself in that sense. And there's a lot of stuff that happens at the beginning of Jeff Johns' run of Green Lantern that really like plays into the idea of like, what does it mean to hold the power of a Green Lantern, and what does it mean to conquer fear? And it's really nice. And I really love Hal Jordan in those stories and Jeff Johns' interpretation, where it's like, this whole time people are saying like, oh, to be a Green Lantern, you're without fear. And Hal Jordan kind of says, like, corrects that, and he says, no, that's not what being a Green Lantern means. Being a Green Lantern means you can conquer it. We all feel fear. Yeah, it's okay to feel fear, but it's our job to overcome that. That's what makes us a Green Lantern.
Yeah, that's what makes
them superheroes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I really like that. I feel like that really gives context to who Hal Jordan is as a person. And it's stuff like that always makes me really sad when I hear people say like Hal Jordan's a boring character, because to me that's so like, oh, you've never read a Green Lantern story ever.
Yeah, I mean, again, just like every other piece of art, which is subjective.
Yeah,
I mean, I definitely would say I've said, honestly, probably not even that he's boring, just the fact that like I know nothing of him.
Yeah.
So like I have no opinion one way or the other. He's just the green guy from Justice League. But no, like I think, one, that's just a good message in life in general. And two, like it really sets the stage for why Hal does what he does and who he is.
Yeah. It's why he becomes the greatest Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Like in the mythology of DC. So we continue with this flashback. Hal Jordan is watching his dad fly this plane, or this jet. And that is when he meets a young Carol Ferris, who, again, you don't really read Green Lantern, just so you know. Carol Ferris is the once and only true love of Hal Jordan.
I figured.
I love Carol Ferris as a character. She gets really interesting, especially around Jeff Johns' run. Her and Hal are like Peter Parker and Mary Jane, where they love each other, but the writers will never let them be together. They are constantly in a loophole of, they get together and they have a really good relationship, but then Hal Jordan has to leave Earth to go solve some like world-ending shit.
You know, be a superhero.
Yeah, and then she's like, well, you were gone for like 4 months, and you didn't even call. And so like they're broken up.
It's like, I don't think they have cell service in space.
Yeah, it's like, man, it's really shitty.
Yeah.
It's also really shitty when you find out that she's a superhero as well. She's Star Sapphire, which is a Pink Lantern.
I was just about to say, isn't she a Pink Lantern?
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I kind of knew that, but
yeah, she is.
I think I knew that because of one of DC's animated movies or something.
Now, there's an animated TV show, Green Lantern, the animated series. It takes place in the same continuity as the old Batman animated series and Superman animated series, but it was CG instead of 2D.
Yeah.
And in that, she's Star Sapphire as well.
I swear to God, it was not that. It was like maybe I'm tripping, but I definitely thought, because
she was in Justice League Doom, I believe, that movie.
Possibly. I think in my head, I'm thinking she was like, it had to be like elsewhere, because I think she was like a bad guy. Like she was trying to kill Hal.
Well, she used to be a villain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the way the ring used to work is it used to take over her. It was like a separate personality. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And then they obviously retconned that because they wanted love to be like a good force in the universe. Because love is supposed to be the opposite of rage.
Yeah. I don't know why that feels like such a fever dream of a memory.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know. I've seen
right.
her, like, do some shit.
So Hal and Carol are talking. Carol is very unimpressed. You know, she's like, why are you so excited? And Hal's like, that's my dad.
She's being a little snobby.
Yeah, she's being a fucking brat. And he's like, my dad's flying that plane. And she's like, my dad owns that plane.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
In fact, he owns all the planes here.
Yeah.
Like, just like, oh my God.
Yeah. And Hal's like, oh, my name's Hal Jordan. And, you know, she's like, oh, I'm Carol Ferris. When I grow up, I'm going to be a pilot. And Hal's like, oh, me too.
Yeah.
And then Hal sees an opening in the fence that leads into the basically the airfield. And he's about to go in. And she's like, you can't do that. You're going to break the rules. And he's like, I don't care.
I'm not afraid.
Yeah, I'm not afraid. Which I really like that because it really sets up like Hal is like rebellious.
Yeah.
He doesn't really like authority.
He's a scoundrel.
Yeah, he's a scoundrel.
He's a little reckless scoundrel.
Yeah, he's like a Han Solo type character. Which has not always been his depiction, by the way.
Oh, it hasn't?
No, back in the Bronze Age of comics, there was a series written by Danny O'Neill. I believe he wrote it. And it was called Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Hard Traveling Heroes, because they're best friends in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point, it was supposed to be a political comic where Green Arrow was the liberal. Like he believed in like social issues and like figuring out those social issues. And Hal Jordan was the conservative. And he believed in respecting authority, and he was a police officer, so he needs to uphold that authority.
Wild.
Yeah. And the whole point is they go on this road trip together, and it's
a buddy cop.
It's a buddy cop, yeah. And they both teach each other lessons, but obviously Denny O'Neill leans more left, and so most of the time Green Arrow is in the right.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a really good story. I love it. It's just, it's not my favorite interpretation of Hal Jordan.
Yeah. I think I like the fact that he's a scoundrel. Once we get further into this, the fact that you're having a scoundrel essentially become a police officer, it's kind of like, he's been on both sides of the track, so he kind of gets it a little bit. And also, he's able to be a little unconventional. Not that he's breaking laws or anything necessarily, but it allows him to just kind of think differently than these other Green Lanterns.
Yeah, which I really like.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So Hal sneaks into the airfield. Carol is trying to tell her father, Carl, and at that time we were also figuring out that there's some issues with the jet.
Mm-hmm.
Hal Jordan's father is talking to Carl Ferris, and we get this nice little thought, or this writing from Hal Jordan's journal saying, when your worst fear happens right in front of you, there's nothing in the world that you can be afraid of.
Yeah.
And it ends, this flashback ends with his father crashing
right in.
right in front of him, and his father dies.
And when I say right in front of him,
Oh yeah, it's like
literally
it's
right.
yeah, it's right in front of him. We cut to a teenage Hal Jordan who is at Mr. Arden's airfield. Arden was, because Hal establishes that his father was best friends with Carl Ferris, Mr. Arden, and then another character that Hal Jordan ends up serving.
He gets mentioned later.
Yeah, he like ends up working under him in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And essentially Hal Jordan's mother banned him from ever going to an airfield ever again because she's afraid that Hal Jordan will be just like his father and join the military and everything.
She's like, I need you to stay away from Ferris.
Yeah, Ferris Air. And he's like, well, you said Ferris Air.
Yeah.
Arden Air.
Yeah.
And he's just a little shit.
Yeah. I really like the fact that they went a different route with how he acted after his dad died. Because I feel like it's pretty easy to go to that, I wouldn't say cliche, but like, you know, where they're angsty and like
they retract
while rebellious. They're like, it's more quote unquote edgy, I guess, you know.
This one almost feels like he's a class clown.
Yeah.
To hide his sadness.
Yeah, he's being reckless and stuff like that, and which I thought was really cool, and it definitely adds to his kind of like scoundrel persona.
Yeah, I agree. So Arden ends up calling Hal's mother, and Hal's mother and all of both his brothers end up, you know, going to pick him up. That's when we were introduced to Jack and Jim. Jack is Hal's older brother, and Jim is Hal's younger brother. And Jack is an asshole.
Yeah, dickhead.
He is an asshole, but he's one of those characters where like you kind of understand a little bit why he's an asshole, not necessarily that you agree with it.
Yeah.
Where he once his father died, he kind of had to grow up.
Yeah.
And like be the man of the family.
Yeah.
And so he takes a lot of his anger out on Hal, who kind of shirks his responsibilities, shirks, you know, the duty that's, you know, given to him.
And his
son.
It's really centered around like, you know, he's causing issues and stress for their mom.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I wouldn't say defensive of their mother, but is like you said, he's having to step in and be kind of like the man of the house. And like kind of fulfill that role of just being a guardian, like to help out with their mom and take care. I mean, she's got 3 kids.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah.
And you can tell that, you know, the younger brother Jim doesn't want them to fight. Jim is very much like, you know, he wants the family to be together, that kind of deal. Jim does play a larger role in the, you know, overarching story for Jeff Johns' run on Green Lantern. I would say closer towards the beginning than I would say the second half.
Right.
The second half deals more in like space. But he is very much like that anchor for Hal.
Yeah.
You know, and Hal tries to reassure Jim like, oh, we're not fighting. We're just having a conversation.
Even though he tells him like next time he's going to clock him in the face.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. We then cut a little bit further to Hal Jordan's 18th birthday, where Jim gets a present for Hal out from under his bed, goes to his room and sees that Hal has run away from home.
Yep.
And the sun is starting to rise, and we see that Hal is at basically a recruitment center for the U.S. military, the Armed Air Force. And that we are now caught up to present day, essentially.
Yeah, I feel like it's so like the America's military to do something where he's like, because the recruiter walks up to him because he's just sitting on the street.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing, son? And he's like, and Hal just looks at him with the biggest smile on his face. Is like, I turned 18 today. And the recruitment officer didn't ask a single fucking question. Was like, happy birthday, son.
Happy birthday. Welcome to the Air Force.
Sign these papers.
Yep. So he ends up joining Major Stone. Major Stone is the last of the 3 friends. He works under Major Stone in the Air Force, And he is a test pilot for these ships. And it's really cool because they're trying to test this experimental equipment at Mach 1, and Hal Jordan pushes it straight to Mach 3. And they're telling him, like, you need to fucking slow down because it's not meant to go that fast yet. And he's like, oh, it's at 3.1 now. It's at 3.2. And he tries to get it to 3.3, and it fucking catches on fire.
Yeah.
Crashes. You get this really cool full-page spread of Hal just walking away from the wreckage. And he goes, yeah, the jet can handle a hair past 3.2.
You know what that scene really made me think of was Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, very Top Gun.
Well, especially that movie, because literally they have like a similar moment. Like in the very beginning of Top Gun Maverick, he's doing that test flight for that experimental jet. And they're like, okay, it's all it can handle. And he's like, nah, just a little more. Just a little more, baby. Yeah. It literally edging himself, but
yeah. So he walks away. They go to the bar because they are stationed right outside of Coast City, which is Hal Jordan's, like,
where
it's his metropolis. Yeah. And you know, his buddies are giving him a lot of shit because he's like, hey, that was a $3 million jet that you crashed. You know, the major's going to take that out of our asses. And he's like, well, that's why all the rounds are on me today. Hal sees a Marine that's kind of harassing this woman, and you know, she's like, hey, I'm not going home with you. And Hal steps in, and he just punches the dude.
Yeah,
he just decks him. And that's when Jon Stewart steps in, because a lot of people forget Jon Stewart is also from the military.
Yeah,
he's a Marine.
Yeah,
and you know, they're looking at each other. They both smile at each other, and then they just start fucking duking. Like the fucking,
it's Air Force versus Marine.
Yeah,
and like
it is funny because Jon Stewart's like, this is probably the most action you're gonna ever see.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Like they just start duking each other.
Because you have that whole in the military, the whole, like, you know, each branch is kind of like they talk shit to each other and everything like that.
And even Hal Jordan even mentions in a speech bubble or a dialogue bubble where it's like, you know, even the military has their own rivalries, that kind of deal. It's pretty cool. So after the fight, they all get kicked out of the fucking bar, and Jim is waiting for Hal right outside. And Jim's like, I knew you'd be here. I always know that you're going to be here. And he tells Hal Mom's dying.
Yeah.
Tells her that she has cancer and that it's really, really bad. And Hal's like, we gotta go. Like, we gotta go see her now. And Jim's like, you know, Jack will not let you see her because Mom said that as long as you're in the military, you can't come around. And so Jordan, you know, he's really upset by this, and he is just like racked with this guilt. That's a big theme in this story, is like Hal is racked with guilt of how he's handled his life.
Yeah.
His relationships, everything. And, you know, he thinks to himself, like, you know, that next morning I took a joyride in one of the jets and Stone just started laying into me, and I didn't care what he was saying. Like, the only thing I could think about was my family. The only thing I could think about was my mom and how to get out. And he was like, there's only one way to get out. And he just fucking punches.
Yeah, he's like, and I think he says again something like, just another bad decision.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. And he said another bad choice in a life full of them.
Yeah. And he just decks the guy, knowing full well it's going to get him discharged.
Yeah. So he shows up to the hospital, and he says, like, he kept his promise. And Jim tells him it's too late. There were complications, and she passed away. And you can tell that this really, really fucks up. Yeah, like, pretty bad. And Jack is there, and he says, you're the reason why Mom died.
Yeah.
Ever since you joined the military, she has done nothing but worry about you, and she has feared every day that she'll get that call, basically.
Yeah.
He's like, you are the reason you killed Mom. And, you know, he says, like, you know, when you ran away from home, I dropped out of college to come home and take care of her.
Yeah.
You know, kind of that thing where it's like Hal's actions have a ripple effect.
Yeah, and I don't think I think it's very much unfair for Jack to tell him that he's the reason their mom died.
Oh, 100%. You should never.
But he's right in the sense that Hal has done some irreparable. I can't fucking talk this morning. God. Yeah, he's done some major damage.
Yeah.
I'm just going to skip the word entirely. He's done some major damage to the family unit. And just like you said, you know, Jack dropped out of college and basically had to give up on his life, which is actually something that's brought up later without getting too far ahead of ourselves. But it's brought up later because at one point, Hal, when he's kind of reconciling everything he's done in his life, he says that Jim was a lot like their mother.
Yeah.
Hal was a lot like his dad. And Jack was on his own path.
Yeah.
And because of Hal's actions, he
took him off of it.
He took him off that path.
Yeah. And Jack essentially says, like, when has Hal ever had to deal with anything? When has he ever had to deal with tough decisions or tough life situations? Like, he just runs away.
Yeah.
And that's essentially where we end it. In that scene, we cut to Hal's apartment, and Jim ends up giving Hal the gift that he was going to give him on his 18th birthday. And it's a picture of Hal with their father, like as a kid. And he essentially is like, my life sucks.
Yeah, I've fucked everything.
Yeah, I have nothing.
Because he got dishonorably discharged, which means he can't go back to the military.
Yeah. His mom died. Without him ever getting to say even goodbye.
Or
I'm sorry.
Sorry, any of it. So he's got to live with all that.
His older brother fucking hates him.
And Jim doesn't have necessarily an issue with Hal.
No, but he has his own life.
Yeah.
And he can't wait on Hal to make the right decisions.
Exactly.
Because he even mentions, like, because Hal's like, well, why don't you stay? Like, we can have dinner. And Jim's like, I forget his wife's name, but she's in the car.
Yeah. He can't be Hal's therapist.
Yeah.
He's got his life to go back to. So Hal's pretty much rock bottom at this point.
Yeah. To end off, part one, we cut to the planet of Yzmalt. Which plays a huge part in Jeff Johns' run. It plays a huge part in the Red Lantern mythos. And we meet Abin Sur, who is the predecessor of Hal Jordan. He is the one who gives Hal the ability to become a Green Lantern. And Abin Sur is a super interesting character. He wasn't fleshed out a whole lot in the original introduction of Hal, but over time they've really made Abin Sur kind of his own character.
Yeah. I assume previously he was just like, he's just the guy that died.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was. He was just there.
Yeah.
In this, Jeff Johns really redefines the character as being this, like, he's very much like a mentor type. He's like a Gandalf. He's like a Jiraiya. He is there to be the mentor of the next generation. And he is plagued with prophecies and visions. And he has this fear in him of what is to come.
Yeah.
And he believes in this prophecy known as the Blackest Night, which, of course, I explained what the Blackest Night is. And he is trying to find a way to stop it before it can happen, because he does not believe that the Green Lantern Corps will survive.
Yep.
And that's where he goes to Yzmalt to talk to the 5 inversions, who are the remaining survivors of Sector 666.
Hell.
Yeah, hell.
That's basically what the planet is.
Yeah.
It's just hell.
Yeah.
Because the inversions or
the 5 inversions.
Yeah, they essentially look like demons.
Yeah. And they essentially tell him, because they are all like clairvoyance.
Yeah.
In a sense, they all can see the future, and it's through like their blood magic and shit like that. And they all basically say like, you know, we see your future. Like your ring will fail you. Like you are afraid that the Green Lanterns are not strong enough.
Yeah.
And
again, bringing up fear.
Yeah. And we start book 2 or chapter 2 with Aventure. You know, he takes Atrocitus onto his ship, which they do establish is not common. Like Green Lanterns don't.
Because they can fly.
Yeah, they can fly. They can fly in hyperspeed.
And travel through space.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And essentially Aventure finds out that the planet known as Earth is the harbinger of this Blackest Night prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes Atrocitus and like, I'm going to take you and you're going to lead me to this, you know, basically the catalyst of the prophecy.
Yeah.
And we're going to put an end to this, or I'm going to put an end to this. And then I'm going to take you back to Yzma and you're going to fucking sit there and rot.
Yeah.
Because they're like crucified and shit. They're like in prison.
Yeah.
And while Aventure is traveling to Earth, we cut back to Hal Jordan. He now works at Arden Air as a mechanic. Arden was able to give him a job, but he was not allowed to fly.
Yeah. He's basically grounded permanently.
He ends up making friends with this gentleman named Tom, who is also a mechanic. Tom is in Green Lantern stuff. I don't think he's like a huge character.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. It's been a while, but he's essentially just like the friend.
Yeah.
How they introduced this asshole. I don't even fucking remember his name. Leminski, that's his name. Yeah.
Just throw some casual racism.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It is funny too, because like Hal Jordan even calls him out on it, where he's like, because he calls Tom Pie Face.
Yeah.
And Hal Jordan's like, oh, Pie Face, like Eskimo pie, because he's Asian.
Yeah. I put in my notes, I was like, not because I actually thought this, but I was like, Hal Jordan racist? ? Because he had to explain the joke.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't know if that's a great look, Hal. Like, you know.
So basically Hal Jordan just shit talks him away.
Yeah.
And
he calls him like a Polak, which is essentially, I guess, like it's like a Polish slur.
Yeah. Yeah.
Growing up, I heard that all the time because I lived around a bunch of Polish families.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I was like, wow, that's actually a word. I thought just all my neighbors and
wow, you did something there.
I was like, I thought all my neighbors just made that shit up. It was just, you know.
That's funny. Hal notices this wreckage that's being shipped in, and you know, he recognizes it, and he actually realizes that it's the plane that his father took him on for their first flight. And it, you know, Hal kind of has this moment of like, he looks like he's seen like Vietnam flashbacks. Yeah. And Tom's like, we need to go. Like, come on, let's go. We cut to Mr. Arden's office, and Hal is like, I want to fly. I want to fly again. I'm the best pilot you got. And Arden's like, yeah, you're the most expensive pilot we got.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that I can't do that. You know, the stipulation for you working for me was that you could not fly.
Yeah.
And Arden tells Hal, like, you know, I'm getting too old for this. And I decided I'm going to sell to Ferris Air. And Hal's like, what the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you know what he did to Dad, that, you know, that kind of deal. And that's when we're introduced to an adult Carol Ferris.
Yep. The baddie walks in.
Yeah. The fucking Hal Jordan's Mary Jane walks in.
Yeah.
And she just rules the roost.
Yeah.
And she's the archetype of like strong, badass woman who has no like time to have a conversation with
anyone. Where it's like it really treads that line of like, are they just, you know, strong or are they just bitchy?
Yeah.
But I think they write her pretty well because, like, later in the story, you know, because even though in the beginning they show Hal and her interact as children, like it's been fucking years since they've seen it. So she doesn't know him really.
No.
She recognizes the name, but that's it.
Yeah.
So it's like she doesn't owe him anything of like being friendly and stuff like that. And she's all business.
No.
That's her whole thing.
No. Yeah, and essentially it's just that whole scene ends with, you know, Arden basically telling Carol, like, you know, for this deal to go through, for you to buy, you know, Arden Air, you need to keep Hal on. Like, he works for you. Like, you do not fire him.
Yeah, that was like part of the deal selling.
Hal goes to the wreckage that he saw earlier with Tom, and he sits in the chair, and he just kind of has this moment of reflection of like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks.
Back to Ferris.
Yeah, this sucks. We cut back to Abin Sur, and he is approaching Earth, and Atrocitus is just talking some mad shit to him, talking about how he's afraid.
It's like a COD lobby in the
dude, yeah, I know. He's been doing this for like 3 days straight. He says, "You're afraid. I can feel it on you. You know, I have visions of your ring failing, that kind of deal."
And he's like, "That's why you're flying the ship, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you're afraid it's just gonna fail you."
Yeah, and it is cool because you do get this nice little scene of, it's an up close shot of Abin Sur's face, and you see in his eye the yellow lantern symbol.
Yeah,
kind of the influence of Parallax. Parallax becomes a huge part of Jeff Johns' run in the first half, where he retcons that Parallax isn't just the name that Hal Jordan took when he became a villain. He retcons that Parallax is the entity of fear.
Okay.
Jeff Johns retcons that each Lantern Corps has an entity that represents them.
Okay.
So for the Yellow Lanterns, it's Parallax, which is like this huge locust demon monster thing.
Interesting.
For the Green Lanterns, it's Ion, who and each Lantern Corps has an avatar where it's like one member of their corps has that entity within them. For the Green Lantern Corps, it's Kyle Rayner. He has Ion, and Ion's like a huge space whale.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the Red Lantern one is the Butcher, which is like a big fucking bull.
Okay.
And then the only other one I remember is the Predator, which is Love. Yeah.
Interesting turn of phrase.
Yeah. So it's cool. They get more into it later on in the run.
Yeah. Just slight tangent. The only thing I know about the Red Lantern Corps is there is a cat member.
Dexstar, yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing I know about him.
Yep.
And that motherfucker kills.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, Dexstar is like a fan favorite character.
And his backstory is fucking depressing.
It's super fucking
because it's a fucking cat.
Yeah.
If it was happening to a person, I'd be like, oh, another comic book origin.
Yeah.
But it's happening to a fucking cat.
When we eventually get into the Red Lantern stuff, I think Red Lanterns will probably be your favorite because they have some of the more interesting characters.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of characters that have been Red Lanterns, like obviously Atrocitus is their leader, Dexstar, Supergirl has been a Red Lantern, Guy Gardner, Hal Jordan. Like, there's a lot of characters that have been Red Lanterns.
Has Kilowog been a Red Lantern?
I don't believe so, no.
Interesting. Injustice, I think, had a Red Lantern character, didn't it?
Injustice 2 had Atrocitus.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was in it.
Yep.
So, Abin Sur is starting to succumb to this fear, and Atrocitus says, when you feel fear, it weakens your constructs. And he breaks out of the prison that Abin Sur created, and he fucks Abin Sur up.
Oh, yeah.
Atrocitus is like a fucking demon.
he shit talked his way to freedom.
Oh yeah, he did. And he fucking yells, "Freedom!"
Yeah.
As the ship is like crashing.
He was pulling a Mel Gibson.
Oh yeah,
Fucking Braveheart, just freedom.
yeah, and he fucking jumps out of the ship.
Yeah, they're not even in low atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like still in space, and he's just fucking
dipping out of
He
it.
can't fly or anything.
No.
He's just like, fuck it, we ball.
Yeah, for real. Like, Adrastus is the luckiest motherfucker ever. So Avensur, he crashes the his ship in the desert so that way no one gets hurt. And Avensur's like, "Oh, prepare a message for Sinestro."
Yeah.
And the ring goes off to find the replacement. It finds Hal Jordan.
Just whisks him away.
Oh yeah.
Literally just in the middle of the fucking airfield or whatever, and he just gets fucking yeeted.
Yeah. And it's like talking to him like, "Oh, I'm Avensur of your space sector." And then it says like, "Oh, space sector 2814.
Yeah.
I am dying in brightest day and blackest night to serve as a great honor."
It's just like giving him a shit ton of information as the entire time he's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool because you get like Abin's like perspective, and then the ring like talks to him, like that kind of shit. And it pulls him to the, the wreckage, and it says, "You have been chosen for one reason among many others. You are one who can overcome great fear."
Yeah.
And then, Avensur, he says, "Hal Jordan of Earth, do you accept this duty?" And you get this really cool full page, spread of Avensur handing off the ring.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. Hal is like, "If I'm not dreaming, hell yeah, I want this." This is like, I love that too, where it's like, sometimes in these superhero stories, you get characters who are like reluctant.
They shy away from it.
They're like, I don't want the responsibility. I don't want the power. And Hal Jordan's just like, "Fuck yeah, I want it.
I get to fly?
That's fucking cool.
That's fucking dope."
Yeah. And he's like, "I want that."
Yeah.
And before Avensur dies, the last thing he says is Sinestro. And Hal Jordan's like, "It's an alien word. I don't know what."
Yeah, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah. And it says, "Hal Jordan of Earth, you have been chosen to overcome, or you have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps." And he is bestowed the outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, like, the green of the outfit it's like as hot as fire, but it doesn't burn.
Yeah.
And he says, but the black of the outfit is as cold as ice.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I've always imagined the Green Lantern suit as like, it's just spandex, but in reality, it's like...
It's energy.
It's energy.
Yeah.
I don't know why I never understood that until now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's also confusing too, because there will be scenes where he's like fighting, and if it's like a really intense fight, it's like battle damage, like it's actual spandex.
I mean, I guess you could say it's kind of like, like another construct.
Yeah. It's just weakening. Yeah. I guess you could say that. And it's funny. Hal Jordan cusses a lot in this, by the way.
Yeah.
Because he gets suited up, and then it starts making him fly, and he goes, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit.
There's moments where he cusses after he gets the ring, and when he cusses, the ring like pops up like a notification. It's like, cannot translate.
Yeah. So he gets lifted into the air, and Hal Jordan is immediately like, "Oh fuck yeah, this is cool."
Yeah.
And he just starts flying, and it's cool because he has like a cool moment where he's like, "There was no rumbling of the engine, no stick to pull on, no tower to get permission from. It was just me and the ring."
Yeah.
And he just goes off.
He's just flying.
Yeah.
Living life.
He runs into Leminski, who is test flying the experimental jet. And he even says, like, if you lose your cool at 10,000 feet, you pay the price.
Yeah.
And because Leminski like gets fucking scared when he sees Hal.
Yeah.
And he ends up catching the jet, and it's cool because, Hal, he catches it and he says, "No fear."
Yeah.
And The artwork in this is just so.
Of course, before he saves when he's talking shit, though.
Oh yeah.
So because he's like, yeah, I'm deaf. Because earlier he tells Arden, I'm 10 times the pilot Levinsky ever will be, and when he catches the plane and everything, he's like, yeah, definitely 10 times better. He's talking mad shit even when he's rescued.
Yeah. He catches Levinsky. They do end up crashing. It's cool because when he catches them, they're not slowing down enough, and then he starts thinking about like larger hands, and the ring creates larger hands to like hold it, and it's like you can tell that it's not solid. It's like it's very wobbly, and he's able to slow it down enough to where like they crash, but it's not deadly. Everyone on the airstrip is going to run, and the ring conceals his identity.
Yeah.
And you know, people are looking at him and they're like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, and the ring answers like Green Lantern of Sector 2814.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck is a Green Lantern?
He's like, me.
Yeah, me, I'm Green Lantern. Carol is walking up to him. She trips.
He catches
her.
And just some random fucking dude's like, hey, that's my girl.
That is when we were introduced to Hector Hammond.
Fuck this guy.
Hector Hammond is a classic Green Lantern villain.
The moment that I saw him, I said, fuck this guy. The first couple words out of his fucking mouth, I was like, I do not like this fucking guy.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hector Hammond is a classic Green Lantern villain. He's like, he's kind of like a Lex Luthor type character for Hal.
He's Megamind.
He's Megamind, yeah.
No, like legit, because he gets a big ass fucking dome.
Yeah, you know, and I try not to like hate on characters too much. It definitely feels like, especially now, a character like Hector Hammond just isn't. He isn't enough to keep people interested as a villain.
Well,
especially now that all the Green Lantern Corps stuff has been established.
Yeah,
like all the different spectrums.
I don't know, obviously, how he's written in other stories, but from this and his quote unquote objective and goal in this, if it's anything remotely the same in any other story, I can see very much why he's not an interesting character.
Yeah. He's just that kind of character who's like, he's like MODOK, where he's like, I'm super smart.
Yeah.
Like that's my thing, is I'm smart and I can read your mind.
And deformed.
Yeah. It's just when you look at characters, other villains like Sinestro, Atrocitus, like those kinds of characters, you kind of realize like, oh, there's no need for a character like Hector anymore.
Yeah, because Green Lantern to me, after reading this, seems like he shouldn't, like none of his villains should be terrestrial. It should all be kind of that cosmic space. That kind of thing. With
the exception of William Hand, but that's also because they've retconned William Hand to be so integral to the Green Lantern mythos now. And they play into it in Blackest Night.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, it's a Blackest Night thing.
Oh.
So
I don't like him.
Yeah. Well, you definitely won't like him once I reveal his, you know, how he was created. So...
Oh, okay.
It's going to be interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, we open up with chapter 3. You know, it's love at first sight.
Yeah.
Fucking Hal and Carol are fucking...
They're giving each other the eyes.
The eyes.
The Nala eyes.
Yeah, the lovey-dovey fucking... And Hector's like, hey, I said you can, like, let go now.
Yeah.
And he's essentially like, okay, so how the fuck did you do that? How did you catch that? Like, what kind of science are you using? That kind of deal. He's like questioning Hal about all the different things about his ring and all that kind of stuff. And fucking, it is funny because when they ask, like, how did you do that? The ring says, like, construct manifestation triggered by a force of will. And Hal's like, can you shut the fuck up? And the ring is like silent mode activated.
I do like that there's some really good humor in this.
Yeah. And I think that's important for a character like Hal Jordan.
Yeah, because I think it really, because again, you know, he's like this scoundrel character. I think it really adds to that.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
He's not a Superman. While there's humor in Superman, it's kind of like that very
like Boy Scout.
Yeah.
Like,
You know,
it's obvious that it's
on the nose.
It's on the nose.
Yeah.
With Hal, it's like, it's because he's a fuck up.
Yeah.
That's why it's fun.
It's also like seems more like a natural, like this is like a natural sense of humor rather than like, you know, you have the Boy Scout kind of almost really innocent, naive humor that Superman gets.
Yeah. So they're trying to basically say like, can we study you, that kind of deal, or can we study that, or I have questions for you. And Hal's like, I'm good, I'm out. And he gets the fuck out of there, and he goes back to the wreckage, and he essentially is like, I didn't know him, he was an alien, he wasn't even from here, but he deserves the respect, and he buries Avon's.
Yeah, because he's like he's definitely some type of military, like an officer or something. And I think he kind of has that, like, you know, I was in the military, my dad was at one point. So it's like, to show him respect, I'm gonna bury him just for that alone.
Right. He finds the power battery, because a big thing with Green Lantern is that they have to charge their rings every 24 hours.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was new to me.
Yeah, the ring is a finite source of power.
Yeah.
Now, they have changed that in recent years. I know currently Hal Jordan has a special ring
that just doesn't run out.
As far as I know, it doesn't run out, and it kind of ignores some of the rules that are placed onto the ring as well. And that's because Hal Jordan is, like, he's special. They've established that Hal Jordan is so powerful, he can make rings himself using his own willpower. He's strong.
He's Big Boy Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I think before he buries Abin Sur, I just want to point out, because I'm gonna keep ragging on fucking Hammond. He is basically, he calls out Carol. He's like, I saw how the way you were looking at him, everything like that. And she's like, I didn't realize we were dating after one fucking dinner. And he's like obsessive about her,
dude. It is creepy.
I'm like, dude.
Dude, take a fucking hit.
And it's basically like telling him to fuck off.
It is funny too, because she even says like, and everyone knows I don't date employees. That kind of deal. And that does come back later, and I really like that. I'm gonna rag on this dude this entire fucking story. I mean, hey, Hector's fucking weirdo.
He's a fucking creep. I know we're not supposed to like him because he's a villain, but like, I would have rather taken like he's just the crazy scientist over what he is, because he's just this creepy, like,
he's fucking weird.
He's fucking weird.
So Hal, he activates the power battery, and when the power battery activates, the ring essentially says like, oh, you're to report to O immediately for basic training. And like, he's like putting it on autopilot, have a safe trip, or I think it says like, have a nice flight. And then it just fucking skyrockets him into the atmosphere, and Hal is just he's like, what the fuck? And then
he literally goes into hyperspace.
It's like Star Wars. And he pops out on Oa, which is the home base of the Green Lanterns.
I opened this full page spread, and the first thing I saw was that fucking head with legs.
The big dude. I forget his name. He's a staple character.
I saw him, and I put in my notes. I'm like, where's the big head Green Lantern comic? I need it right fucking now, because that is fucking hilarious to me.
That's something about Green Lantern that I really like too, because there's multiple Green Lantern comics. Because you get like Hal Jordan Green Lantern Corps, you know, Tales from the Green Lantern. Like, you get all these different Lantern stuff, and it focuses on the other members of the Green Lantern Corps. I like that. I think that's cool.
I really like the fact that Green Lantern, it's not like a like one person holds the title. It's the Green Lantern Corps. It's
an organization.
And I really like that fact, because it definitely makes it feel more expansive.
You can do more with it. It feels like you don't necessarily need to follow Hal Jordan to get an interesting story. Now, obviously, Hal Jordan is an interesting character, and you want to follow the humans because they are the main characters.
Yeah.
But like characters like Kilowog, Sinestro, like those are cool fucking characters that I would love to watch stories about.
I mean, kind of jumping the gun, but I honestly, I really liked. At first, I didn't like him, but I really liked Sinestro in this.
Yeah.
He's actually a standout for me in that.
Yeah.
More so than Hal and everybody else.
I think that's good because that, to me, makes his fall
even more
impactful.
Because I already knew Sinestro's a bad guy.
Everyone
and everything.
Yeah.
And so, one, I wasn't expecting him to show up in this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of was after, Abin Sur kind of says his name and everything like that. But I didn't know how he was going to show up. I wasn't sure if he had already fallen.
Yeah.
And like Abin Sur's like just in his death throes, like remembering a failure of a student or whatever.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure how he was going to show up. But again, like they make him this way, but he's kind of a fucking dickhead and everything. And I was like, I'm not going to like this character either. I like him more in Hammond. Fucking weirdo.
Yeah, Sinestro is a really interesting character.
But I was super surprised how much of a standout he was. Again, slightly jumping the gun, but
yeah. So yeah, Hal arrives on Oa, the home base of the Green Lantern Corps. It is the center of it. It's the planet in the center of the galaxy. Like it's like the oldest fucking planet. That kind of deal. They say it's the planet where life originated. And they retcon the shit out of that, by the way, just so you know.
Did they?
They 100% do. They retcon it in Blackest Night.
Probably for the best.
You can be the judge of that.
I just say probably for the best because I feel like when you do stuff like that, you're kind of hamstringing yourself.
You could say it's for the best, but we'll get to it when we get to it. Okay. Again, it's going to be a while before we get to it, but we'll see what you think.
Again, I have no knowledge, so I'm talking out my ass, kind of.
So yeah, you get to see a whole lot of little characters that do end up becoming like really important Green Lantern characters in the future, especially like characters like Tomar Ray, who is not a permanent Green Lantern member, but his son is a really interesting character because Hal Jordan is kind of like a mentor to him.
Okay.
We get introduced to Kilowog, who is, of course, Hal Jordan's BFF in the Corps.
Yeah.
He is also the person who trains Hal Jordan how to fight. And we get this really fucking awesome just introduction of like, Hal Jordan, he lands in the mud and Kilowog's like, hey, Poozer, how's it going?
Yeah.
And they just start shit talking each other and they fight. They instantly start a fight.
Just to reuse the same joke, they both entered the COD lobby and immediately started shit talking.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that Hal Jordan's like, man, you start shit talking me, we're throwing hands.
Hey, and he literally fucking does.
Yeah, he's like, you want a box? Let's box. And he fucking throws a fucking boxing glove at
They start fucking doing fisticuffs.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. We cut back to Earth, and Hector Hammond and the military have found Abin Sur's ship, and they're like, oh shit, we're not alone. Now, I will say, this does, at least to me, it reads like it takes place after Superman.
Yes, I was just about to say that as well, because whenever Hammond is like, hey, hands off my fucking girl, he calls
him a superhero.
Yeah. And to me, I'm like, I don't think Batman has that kind of reputation.
No, he's a vigilante.
Yeah. So I'm like, the only superhero I can really think of is
Superman. Yeah.
Who's an alien because he's told people he's an alien.
I don't think people know he's an alien yet because people ask him, are you an alien? And he just says, I'm Superman.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe at this point we don't know yet. Like it just hasn't been revealed.
Yeah.
But either way, I read that line. I thought it was kind of funny because in this universe, Superman exists now.
Yeah.
So, then they also established like there was another object that landed, and they are at this lake, and they're like, we can't find it. They go to the water, and the water starts to boil, and one of the guys is like, do you see this? And then immediately Atrocitus pops out and just starts fucking killing all of them. Atrocitus is wild.
Yeah, the thing is the thing is like I mean it's every movie or TV show or comic or book. It's like, you know, you have the most blatant like, this is not normal, but I'm gonna stand here and just that's what you get. You just see water randomly bubbling. You deserve to have a demon just slaughter you.
Oh yeah. Let me tell you,
you're not fucking hightailing it.
Let me tell you, I hear somebody say, "You guys see the water boil?" I'm gone. I'm already gone.
Unless we're in the kitchen and the stove is on. Like,
I'm out.
I don't need to see water boil.
Yeah. So we cut back to Oa, and Kilowog has made a fucking example out of Hal. And he's like, "All right, does everybody see that? Yep, that's what you don't do." And he's fucking got him in this bubble. And there's another trainer. I forget this gentleman's name. I think it's Khan. I might be wrong about that, but he's a gentleman with like horns.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also a teacher for the new recruits. And he does talk to another lantern named Atir, I think that's his name. And he says, you know, "Why do you speak so little?" And Atir says, like, "Because I fear my duty." Kahan, that's his name. That's the other teacher. He says, "Because I fear my duty." And he says, "Green lanterns burn bright, but they burn out just as quickly." And Kahan basically says, like, you know, if the human can make it, so can you.
Yeah. Also noticed a lot of racism towards humans.
Yeah, it's because in the DC universe, and I guess you could say this about the Marvel universe as well, but it's like aliens know that Earth exists and that humans, but it's like, yeah, it's because they're so like not even primitive. It's like they do nothing but fight each other.
Yeah,
like like aliens view themselves as above humans because they've established like higher forms of trade and stuff like that.
They view Earth as like we view Alabama.
Yeah, essentially, yeah, basically. Hal Jordan ends up breaking out of his bubble, and Kilowog throws a yellow disc at him. Hal Jordan tries to catch it, and it goes right through. This is when they establish that Green Lanterns are weak to the color yellow.
Yeah.
Now,
that threw me at first.
Yeah.
Because I was like, just the color yellow?
That's what it used to be. Yeah. It was just the color yellow.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah.
Because the sun's yellow.
Yeah. Jeff Johns retconned that no, they're not weak to the fucking color yellow.
Yeah.
They're weak to fear, which is represented by the color yellow.
So
things that are the color yellow are associated with fear.
So therefore it's kind of got similar.
It's like a residual, yeah.
Which makes sense, but like just the way it comes off on like at first at least, it's just like, so anything like they can't touch a pencil. You know,
a number 2 pencil.
Number 2 pencil. Like,
oh, fuck.
They're failing all their tests.
Yeah, for real.
They need mechanical pencils.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's like a residual. I almost view it as like a brain trauma where their constructs are strong, but the moment they see yellow, it's like a PTSD thing, and it weakens their constructs.
Like it's like a subconscious, like they know yellow's associated with fear.
It's a subconscious trigger, yeah.
But if that's the case, Hal Jordan, who knows fuck all about any of it, shouldn't have issues against the color yellow.
He does, because they explain that there is a yellow impurity in the ring later on.
Yeah, but I'm saying before that, you know, like the yellow shouldn't affect him until he learns.
No. What I'm saying is that his ring has the yellow impurity.
Ring.
Yeah. The ring is weak to it. He himself is not weak to it.
No, I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, because there's a yellow impurity in the Green Lantern rings, and they explain that in Green Lantern Rebirth.
Gotcha.
So
okay, I mean they do mention it in this as well. I'm pretty sure when he first gets the ring, it says something about having an impurity.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So Hal Jordan, you know what's funny is like we're talking about this in the comic. Hal Jordan's like, why yellow?
Yeah.
Like that's so fucking weird. Why are we weak to yellow? That makes no fucking sense.
He's like, man, I really love fucking bananas, and now I'm just fucked. I can't eat a banana.
So they're talking. Kilowog's giving him the shit of like, you don't question the core, you do your duty, that kind of deal. He's like classic military, like you do what you're told.
Yeah, I mean, even how when he first lands there, he's like, oh, I get it. This is boot camp.
Yeah. And Tomar Ray kind of jumps in and he says, let me speak with the Earthman. And Kilowog's like, what business do you have with him, Tomar? And he's like, he's wearing Abinsur's ring. And everyone just kind of goes, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Really laying that fact that Abinsur is kind of like
the big dog.
Yeah, and like, I wouldn't say legend, but like, he's definitely got a reputation.
Yeah.
For sure.
Tomar takes Hal and he's like, oh, I'm from, 2815. I'm essentially like your next door neighbor. And he's like, my name's Tomar Ray. And, Hal introduces himself and he's like, so how did Abin die? And he says, well, he crashed his ship on my planet and he found me. Like the ring found me. And Tomar Ray's like, that's weird. We don't need ships to fly.
Yeah.
Like there's no need for him to ever use one. And he says, Abinsur had a fear in him. He basically says like Abinsur, like, he believed in prophecies, that kind of shit.
And he grew paranoid.
And he takes him to the Book of Oa. The Book of Oa is a huge thing in the Green Lantern mythology that it tells the beginning, middle, and end of everything about the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
It tells you of things that have happened, what are happening, and what will happen.
Yeah, I slightly picked that up because he's like, this has all of Abinsur's life, essentially.
Yeah. Every deed.
Everything he's done, how he died, everything like that. And then he tells Hal, he's like, and then yours will be in here as well as mine. And basically saying like, we have a whole record of every lantern that's ever existed.
Yep. And he basically tells Hal like, this book was Abinsur's like end. He says like, this is a great tragedy. He says like the world is darker without him, essentially. And Tomar looks at Hal and he says, if you need help, ask for it.
Yeah, don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid to lean on people. And I like that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good.
Cut you off. I was going to say, I really like the fact that the phrase of "don't be afraid" is just continuously used throughout this story because it's such a fear is just like such a big part, at least from what I know and have gathered, is such a huge part of Green Lantern and his character and everything. So I like just that subtle, maybe might not be subtle, especially if you know the character, but just to me, it's like subtle enough where it's like, fear is just kind of always present and everything like that.
Yeah. So we do a montage. We get a nice little action movie montage of Hal Jordan's training.
Yep.
You get this really funny moment where like you kind of see his relationship with Kilowog forming where, he takes them into an asteroid field and they're flying around the asteroids, but Hal flies straight through the asteroid.
Yeah.
And Kilowog's like, you're supposed to fly around, Hal. What the fuck? And then we get to ring slinging training and Kilowog's like, you can't do it. Hal Jordan's like, I'm going to do it. And he's like, no, you're not. And he's like, it's just the color yellow. I'm going to do it. It is really fucking funny.
And he's like, I think at one point he's like swearing up and down he did something to it. And everyone's like, no, you fucking didn't.
Yeah.
Dude. Like,
we get introduced to another mainstay, Salak. He's kind of like the liaison for the Lantern Corps. He's normally on Oa and he like assigns mission to the lanterns.
Gotcha.
He's also another like I want to say mentor to Hal Jordan, but he's definitely like if Hal Jordan needs advice, he goes to him.
He's the quest giver in the hub world.
Yeah. And you start to see that kind of respect forming between Hal and Kilowog.
Yeah.
and they finish their training, and that's when we get the first appearance of the oath. You know, the
Yes.
brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light.
Yeah, I really liked how kind of smooth and like natural the introduction of this oath was.
Yeah.
Because to me in the past, anytime I've seen it, it's always been kind of like that Power Rangers moment.
Yeah.
You know, where like it's the catchphrase that he says and everything like that. I like the fact that it's like, oh, okay, it's like a military mantra kind of thing.
It's what they tell themselves.
Yeah.
I, of course, it's no surprise, I fucking love the Green Lantern oath.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool, but it's also like it has a level of foreshadowing because obviously the blackest night is in it. Another thing that's in it is the brightest day, which is prophesized to come after the blackest night.
Isn't that also a comic run?
Yeah, it comes out immediately after.
Yeah.
So Hal Jordan finishes his training. He's now a full-fledged Green Lantern. That is when we are introduced to Sinestro.
Yep.
Sinestro is out on a mission, and he is being talked to by a Guardian. Fuck the Guardians, by the way.
I got that feeling, and also I didn't realize it was. At first, when I was first reading this, I didn't realize it was a Guardian talking to him. I thought the ring had become like
sentient.
Yeah, like self-aware and everything. I'm like, that's not fucking good.
No. They have done that idea, especially in like the animated series.
Yeah.
There's a character named Aya, and she's like a sentient Green Lantern ring. But she's like she's a robot. She starts out as like pure energy. She then puts her consciousness in a spaceship, and then she puts her consciousness in a robot body.
Yeah, I'd like. Because at first, like I said, I didn't realize the Guardians were a thing. I thought like the rings themselves were like quote like
they
hive mind.
Like they had a mission to find people.
Yeah.
No, the Guardians are one of the oldest races in the known universe. And they are the ones who started the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah, they're also the ones that they made those robots.
The Manhunters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came before the Green Lantern.
Yeah, they were a failed project by the Guardians. They're the ones that wiped out
the Sector 666. Yeah, we find that out later in the story. Spoilers.
Sorry.
They retcon the Guardians a little bit in Jeff Johns' run. And yeah, fuck the Guardians.
Yeah, they seem like assholes.
They are 100% assholes. Ganthet's the only one that's like, all right, he's cool.
Is he?
Yeah, because he believes in like humanity.
Yeah,
like he believes Hal Jordan's like a good guy.
Well, you kind of answered one of the questions I ended up having by the end of it, because they never really explain who that is.
Ganthet.
Yeah,
they show him later, like in later stories.
I definitely thought he was going to be a bad guy. So
no, he's a good guy.
Okay.
Yeah. He's like the only Guardian who's like, oh, let's hear this guy out.
Yeah. I definitely was like getting some bad vibes when Sinestro's talking to his ring. Because again, at first I didn't realize a Guardian, so I was like, sentient ring? That's weird.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't listen to that.
Yeah. So yeah, Ganthet gives him a mission to go to Earth, and Sinestro's like, but the Guardians, they put a ban on, Green Lantern Corps members intermingling with each other, which is kind of weird, which is your first sign of like, that's fucking weird. Why would the Guardians do that?
Yeah.
And basically Ganthet's like, well, this isn't a mission. This is going to be like off the record.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Basically giving him permission.
Yeah. And Sinestro's like, all right, I'm going to Earth.
Yeah.
And that's when we're now at like the halfway point of this story, essentially. We cut back to Earth. Hammond is
being a fucking
being a weirdo, because he is blowing up Carol's fucking phone. He's like, this is the 6th voicemail I've left you. Like, you need to call me back so we can smooth all this tension out over dinner.
Wild levels of down battery to a point that it's like, dude, just fucking stop.
And that is when they find the like fuel, like where the fuel container for the ship.
Yeah.
And people are like, don't fucking open that. It's gonna like we could get sick and die. And he's like, you guys are idiots. Like it's not fuel, it's a rock. And he opens it and it blasts him with energy.
Yeah. Because he's not wearing any PPE whatsoever.
No, he's like wearing a lab coat. He's a fucking idiot. And it blasts all his clothes off. This dude is naked as the day he was fucking born. He is completely buck-ass nude.
My whole thing is like, that made me laugh about this is the fact that he's over here like constantly being like, you guys are fucking idiots. You're so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But I'm going to open this alien fucking spacecraft with no like
it's like
safety.
It's like
regulation.
in the real world, when we brought space rocks back from the moon, we had to wear protective clothing to touch them because they have radiation on them.
And he's just like, I'm gonna open this up like it's my fucking 67 Ford pickup. Just fucking,
he's a fucking idiot. So he gets blasted with this cosmic energy. And he gets fucking like super brain cancer, and he becomes a telepath. And this allows him to start reading people's minds. And
everyone's
they fucking hate this dude. People fucking hate Hammond. They fucking hate this dude so much.
I'm pretty sure at one point someone calls him an incel. If
no, they say, dude, this guy's mustache makes him look like a pedophile. It's like, oh my god. These guys fucking hate him.
One's like, dude, this guy's breath stinks.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god. It's like the SpongeBob episode, like, do you mind if I sit here? Not at all. He dies. Yeah, this guy's going fucking insane.
Just shit talking him, and because he's a telepath now, he's fucking hearing everything.
Yeah, it is so fucking funny. It is fucking crazy. Like, I love just how much people shit talk on Hammond. And then he brain blasts all of them. He kills them all.
Yeah.
So that happens. Hal Jordan ends up getting sent back to Earth. The like, since he's done with his training, it like fucking shoots him back. And that's when Tom finds out that he's Green Lantern.
Yeah. I wrote in my notes, I was like, in almost 2 seconds flat since being a Green Lantern gets discovered.
Yeah. He's been on Earth maybe a total of 5 minutes with this outfit on.
It's still reeling from this.
Yeah. We find out that Hal's been gone for a week.
Yeah.
And when he comes back, Tom's like, you're the only, like, we're like the only people that still work here because everyone walked out when when Ferris bought Arden.
Yeah.
And Hal's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go fucking quit. I'm going to go quit.
Well, Tom explains that Carol's dad was supposed to show up for like a conference or something.
Yeah, to basically celebrate the purchase.
Yeah, and didn't show up, so she had to do like an impromptu speech. And like, then like he was also supposed to be there for something else, and then disappeared. And whenever Hal goes to turn in his resignation, she's like on the phone talking to a pilot, I guess, trying to get him to hire on. And I assume at one point he's like, well, why didn't your dad call me?
Yeah.
And she's like coming up with an obvious like excuse.
He's like golfing in Pebble Beach or something like that.
Yeah, he's on a trip.
Yeah.
Won't be back till whatever. That immediately told me, I was like, okay, something's up because he's got to be like dead or something.
Yeah, so something's up with him. That, like, she's not being truthful.
Yeah.
Hal walks in. He's like, I'm here to give my fucking resignation. And she's like, I thought you already did because we haven't seen you in like a week, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you've been gone.
And he's like, well, I guess I came back to make it official.
So, it's like, Jesus.
And then he's like, by the way, while I'm at it, where's your fucking dad? Because I want to fucking talk some mad shit.
Yeah, I'm going to beat the shit out of your dad.
I've been holding on to this anger for like 20 years. Yeah. I'm finna beat the shit out of your dad now.
Yeah. And he's walking out, and she's like, "Do you want to fly again?" Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, he says, "What?" And she's like, "I need pilots. You want to fly? Like, it's a win-win."
And then he's like, "I don't even need a plane to fly anymore."
Yeah, because he has the ring.
But he's like, it's too easy.
Yeah, he says the ring makes it too easy.
Yeah, he wants that challenge, that thrill.
Yeah. And he also says that, like, when he looks at her, at first he saw, like, you know, a spoiled brat, but now he sees, like, a girl who's, like, afraid and at the end of her rope.
Yeah.
And it makes him think for a second, like he feels bad for her.
Yeah.
And he kind of sees, like, himself in her.
I was going to bring that up. Like, he's recognizing that they're almost kind of, well, not in the exact same boat. They're like in a similar situation.
Yeah. We cut to Atrocitus, who is just murdering the shit out of people and animals.
Fucking rituals and shit.
That is also when we get the Red Lantern Oath. Now, the Red Lanterns do not exist yet, but he is the progenitor of the Red Lanterns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we get the Oath: "With blood and rage of crimson red, ripped from a corpse so freshly dead, together with our hellish hate, we'll burn you all. That is your fate." That is the Red Lantern Oath.
Okay.
Yeah, that is how they get their power.
I thought he was literally just doing like some devil worship.
It is. I mean, it's a blood ritual.
Oh.
That's how the Red Lanterns are created.
Gotcha.
Essentially, he's doing this ritual to find out where the source of the black is, which is, you know, the Black Lanterns.
Yeah. And that's where we get the first mention of
William Hand. Yep. Fun fact. I'll wait till William Hand's introduced.
Okay.
I'll wait. Okay. So.
I don't like that look you gave me.
So
no comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll know.
Okay.
So, we cut to the next day. Hal Jordan, he's first day back in the cockpit. He is so fucking excited. He gets off that airstrip and immediately fucking blows his plane. He's like, and it's like just a normal dude is what, like, he's like, there's like someone up here flying.
Yeah.
And Carol's like, "What are you talking about?" And then his plane just fucking explodes.
Blows up.
And this dude's lucky as shit that his ring came to him because he would have fucking died.
Yeah.
And that is where Sinestro fully introduces himself. And he completely disregards Hal Jordan as, like, not just a rookie, but like you're a fool.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? He even says, like, you are wasting your time doing this. And Hal Jordan's like, this is my job.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I do. This is how I make money. And Sinestro's like, what the fuck? What is a job?
You're Green Lantern.
Green Lantern. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And Hal Jordan's like, who the fuck are you? And he introduced himself like, I am Sinestro. I'm the Green Lantern of 1417, which is obviously his home sector.
And he's really talking himself up.
Oh, yeah.
That's because his ring was fucking his hype man earlier.
Yeah. Now, Sinestro is the greatest Green Lantern. That is a part of Green Lantern mythology. Is before Hal Jordan came around, Sinestro was the best.
Yeah.
And then he was usurped by Hal. Now, when I say usurped, it wasn't like, you know, he started to become jealous of Hal. It was like, you know, Sinestro trains Hal to basically be his replacement for when he's gone.
Yeah. And
Hal just lived up to the expectation.
And then obviously him, Sinestro falling from grace doesn't really help his reputation.
Right. And, you know, the ring, like you said, is really hyping him up. It says that Sector 1417 is the most secure like sector in all of the known universe. You know, it's the most orderly, that kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like a little tussle because Hal is like, you just destroyed my one chance to be happy again.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you. And
he's being a dick.
Yeah. And he starts fighting him. And Sinestro's like, your constructs are laced with anger. That's why they're weak. And he just instantly bats away like one of his constructs because Hal like makes like a missile and shoots it at him. And he just bats it away like it's nothing. He doesn't even make a construct. He just fucking boom, gone. And he says, your anger makes you unfocused. And then he's like, Green Lanterns need to be focused. And he pulls the wreckage of Hal's like plane, and he completely uses his will and energy to completely recreate it back to how it was.
Yeah.
And Hal's like, what the fuck? That's crazy. And he's like, okay, thanks, bye. And he gets back in it, and he's like, I'm going home. And he lands. Carol's like, what the fuck was that? And she's like, I was a fool to let you get back.
Yeah, you're flying under, because the entire time Sinestro and him are having that interaction, Carol and like flight control, they like lose signal.
Yeah, they can't find him.
They don't understand that his plane blew up. They just like, where the fuck did his signal go?
Yeah.
And so she's like, you're flying under the radar, not communicating. Like, I knew this was a bad idea. And then Enzo Hammond fucking shows up.
Hector Hammond shows up in his sexy little bathrobe he's got going on, or his little like towel he's wearing.
Yeah, it's like a hospital fucking shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, he lost some brain cells despite his fucking forehead growing like 5 inches.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like drooling.
He's got like the dog look. He's looking like in 2 different directions. Like, he looks like my fucking dog.
Oh, no, not Lenny.
Yeah. And he is just fucking weird, dude. He is just weird.
He is so obsessive, and like,
yeah, and he's talking to Carol. He's like, oh, we have a deep connection now.
Yeah, like, it's like, I can understand you more than anyone ever could. And it's so fucking weird. It's like, you know those individuals on the interwebs that they give donations to women, right? And then they expect, because they gave donations to women for a certain kind of treatment, and then they get mad when they don't get that special kind of treatment.
You mean a simp?
Look, I'm not a simp hater, but there's a certain level of simpery that happens that it's like just unacceptable. And that's Hammond. He is like, he's just a creepy stalker.
Yeah.
Like, that's really it. And he can read minds. He's a stalker that can read minds.
Yeah, he's fucking weird.
I fucking hate this guy so much.
Yeah. So he starts reading Hal Jordan's mind, and he can see that Hal Jordan is Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And we end this chapter with Atrocitus ending up outside of Coast City.
Yeah. Hammond also points out the initial love connection between Carol and Hal.
Yeah.
Because Hal denies it at first. He's like, well, he denies it pretty much until later in the story. Because he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want Carol. Like, she's kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I don't want her. And he's like, you can't lie to me.
I can see it. I can see deep inside you, Hal.
Yeah. Deep inside you. I'm gonna go even deeper.
Oh my God, Hammond.
He was like wiping the drool off his fucking lip. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. So we start part 5 at the Hand Mortuary in Coast City. We are introduced to William Hand. Now, a little bit of history. This is a history lesson I had to start later.
Okay.
I don't hate this character, okay? I think he does some interesting stuff later on, but he is kind of one note. So, he is an old character made back in the 60s, I think early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And he is supposed to be an homage to one of the creators of Batman, Bill Finger.
Mm.
Bill is short for William.
Right.
Hand, fingers are on hands.
Right. Okay.
He was designed or created to honor Bill Finger. And this guy wants to fuck dead people.
Excuse me?
Yeah, William Hand is an implied necrophile.
Now hold on. What? Okay. All right. Now I know why you gave me that look earlier.
Yeah, the William Hand is not like, he's cool in the sense of what he can do later in the series, but when you look at his history, he is just not an appropriate character. And he was created because at that time, Bill Finger was struggling really hard with poverty.
Mhm.
And because back in the day, Bob Kane, who was the writer for Batman, he was fully credited with the creation of the character.
Mm.
And he got all the money.
Damn.
Bill Finger got
He
nothing.
got shafted.
And he died. Bill Finger died poor and impoverished. It wasn't until way after his death that we started seeing Batman created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Because here's the thing. Bob Kane eventually came out and said, oh, no, Bill Finger created everything that you like about Batman.
Jeez, dude.
Like, Bill Finger is responsible for the things that we associate with Batman today.
Wow.
So,
That's fucking wild.
as kind of like a way to say, fuck you, Bill Finger, like, William Hand was created as like a tongue-in-cheek, like, this guy's he's just trying to get money, so we're gonna make this character.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fucked. That is super fucked, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Way to put a fucking...
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy with the William Hand character. Now, there are obviously people who are like, no, he wasn't created to make fun of Bill Finger. Like, it was an actual homage to celebrate the creator. And it's like, yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Why would you make that the homage?
Also, not even in, like, Batman.
No, it's a Green Lantern villain.
Yeah, it's a Green Lantern villain, so why the fuck... I don't fucking...
Yeah. So,
And then also, like, even if he is an homage, why the fuck are you making the homage a fucking necrophiliac? Like,
yeah, he's a villain.
yeah,
He's a necrophile.
that. I'm like so like struggling. Like, what the fuck?
To process that.
Yeah, I'm like processing it. Like, obviously you can't see me, but I'm like over here like fucking like looking around like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah. Now, the character has obviously evolved beyond that.
Yeah.
Like, he does different things now, but it's really hard to separate that.
Yeah, once you know.
Yeah, once you know. And I probably just ruined that character for you.
I mean, to be fair, this
Character you weren't really interested in to begin.
I mean, as far as this story goes that we read, he does nothing for me.
Right. No, that's understandable.
I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. Well, now you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, unfortunately.
So
I'm going to have nightmares now.
Yeah. So now we get introduced to William Hand, who works at his family mortuary. Fun little fact.
Works at him.
Yeah, his family owns a mortuary.
God damn it.
Yeah. Fun little fact. If you look at the symbol for the Hand mortuary, it's that the upside down triangle with the lines in it. That is also the symbol for the Black Lantern Corps. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
my nice little reference right
Gotcha.
there. He starts to unbag a corpse,
Mm-hmm.
and
He's about to go on a date.
he's about to go to Funky Town, let me tell you. And his mom walks in and is like,
dimming the lights.
yeah,
Lighting the candles.
yeah. His mom walks in and is like, what the fuck are you doing? She's like, how many times have we told you to get the fuck out of here? And he's like, I just wanted to look. And his mom's like,
As he's got the lotion in his... I mean, he doesn't actually...
and his mom's like, why can't you be a good Christian like your brothers?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And yeah, it's just, we get that quick little introduction. And then we go straight back to Hal Jordan and Carol getting absolutely mind-fucked by Hector Hammond.
Oh, yeah.
And Hector is just looking through all of their memories and seeing how fucked up their lives are. And, you know, Hal has this, monologue about, like, his name was Hector Hammond. He was an astrophysicist. I'd later find out that like he was exposed to a meteorite core, and that's how he got his powers. You know, he knew all of my secrets, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because that's like a big thing with like Hector Hamm is that he knows that Hal Jordan is Green Lantern, but like he doesn't share it because it's his. He gets to have it.
Yeah. It's he's very much got that pride thing going on.
Yeah. Hal tries to use his ring, but obviously he's not experienced enough to, you know, to fight. And Hector is, you know, he's about to kill them.
Yeah.
And that's when a little green bubble pops up around his head and cuts off the circulation or cuts off the oxygen to his brain.
Passes out.
Makes him pass out. And Sinestro's like, this is astonishing. Like, you have he's like a rudimentary like telepath, like disrupted your concentration. Like,
yeah, just like
you're such a fucking loser.
He's shit talking him.
Yeah. And Sinestro's like, all right, Hal, come on, let's go. And he fucking takes him.
And Carol's like, Hal? And he's just gone.
Yeah, he's just gone.
And there's no questions after that.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Atrocitus, he's in Coast City now, and he does another blood ritual, and he starts fucking with this little thing. They call it the Cosmic Divining Rod, which is a thing from Green Lantern lore. And, you know, he says, like, this is instilled with the power of the Black. You know, this will lead me to William Hand. That kind of deal.
I take it William Hand, kind of like Atrocitus, makes the Red Lantern Corps. I imagine
William Hand is the avatar of Necron, which
makes the Black Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Necron is the avatar of death.
Oh. So, I mean, the only Necrons I know
are undead.
Yep. And fucking a bitch and a half to play against.
So, Sinestro basically explains, you know, I removed the fucking oxygen from his fucking lungs, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And he basically is just saying, like, you know, if I hadn't brought you your ring, you would have been fucking dead, that kind of deal, blah, blah, blah. And Hal starts to question him, you know, about, like, the Green Lantern Corps and all the training and stuff. And he's like, why are we weak to yellow?
Yeah.
Like, he just brings up, he's like, I don't understand it. Like, why are we weak to this color? And Sinestro's like, it doesn't matter. Like, the reasoning doesn't matter.
You just are.
You just are. It's our duty. It's our job. And Hal takes Sinestro to where he buried Abin. And Hal's like, did you know him? And, you know, that's when it's revealed that Abin Sur was Sinestro's mentor and his friend.
I really like that this is kind of where we get a crack in that persona of Sinestro, of, like, you know, he's just like that haughty, superior, like, being that he has with Hal.
Yeah.
I like that this is when we start to kind of, like, see him more personable and like willing to see Hal as, you know, another Green Lantern
comrade.
Yeah. A rookie still, but, like, you know, he is another Green Lantern, and they start kind of getting a little closer, I guess.
And it is cool because, like, Sinestro kind of opens up and he was like, you know, I was a lot like you.
Yeah.
Like, I was rebellious. I questioned authority. You know, I was hot-headed and I was angry. I let my anger drive me. And he was like, Abin helped me temper that and helped me control it. And, like, it's what allowed me to be who the man that I am today.
Yeah, I think he says something like, if it wasn't for Abin, I would have lost this ring a long time ago.
Yeah. And that's when Hal Jordan calls him by his name, Sinestro.
Yeah.
And the ring says, like, you know, message 22 unlocked. Yep. And that is when a projection of Abin Sur appears. And Abin Sur apologizes to Sinestro and says, like, you know, I haven't been the best of friend. Like, to you, and it's hard to even call me a mentor at this point because he was so obsessive about these prophecies and, like, he really, like, shrugged his duties to like his sector.
Yeah, and he's like, I haven't been nearly as exemplar as a Green Lantern as you have been.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's when he says, like, I discovered, like, this tragedy, this great tragedy that befell Sector 666. And that's when he reveals that the Manhunters were the first creation of the Guardians, and that they had an internal flaw, a glitch,
Yeah.
that basically allowed them to dictate that the world would be a better place if no emotion existed.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Manhunters decided to wipe out all life in existence, and they started in Sector 666. And Aventur's like, trillions of lives were lost.
Yeah. They look a lot, they remind me a lot of Sentinels.
Yeah, they do.
For whatever reason.
Yeah, they definitely have that aesthetic to them, I agree. That's when he says, like, the only survivors of the massacre were the 5 Inversions, which are a terrorist organization who believe in, like, getting revenge against the Guardians at all cost and anyone who works for them. And they're also, like, prophetic people. Like, they have visions, and those visions end up being, like, true.
Yeah.
And he says, like, you know, I brought Atrocitus to this planet to stop the prophecy of the Blackest Night, and he survived.
Yeah.
And that's when Sinestro's like, he doesn't say he survived, but, like, he brought Atrocitus.
Yeah.
And Sinestro's like, did you see another body?
And Hal's like, no.
Yeah, Sinestro's like, then he survived.
Yeah.
And we have to go find him. That's when we cut to the funeral home. And there's a service happening. And after the service is done, it looks like 2 parents are burying their daughter, their child. And William is about to get freaky with this body.
Mm-hmm.
And a fucking demon Kool-Aid man's his way through the fucking
And you know
wall.
what? Thank God.
Thank you, God.
Yeah,
Thanks, Atrocitus.
Thank you. The fact that in a panel of 2 characters that the demon alien is the more morally acceptable character is wild.
I stand with Atrocitus.
Yeah. Atrocitus has done nothing wrong.
You will find out the more Green Lantern stories we cover with Atrocitus in them, you will be like, Atrocitus is 100% in the right.
He has done nothing
He
wrong.
has done nothing wrong. He is in the right here. Yeah, he is like,
Magnus,
all right,
nothing.
All right, William. All right, William, you're fucking coming with me. I'm gonna fucking use you to destroy the Guardians.
Yeah. And
that is when Hal Jordan and Sinestro show up, and they're like, hey man, you're under arrest.
Yeah.
And Atrocitus is like, Green Lanterns, you're just as guilty as your masters.
Yeah, and start duking it.
They start duking it out, and that's when he pulls out the cosmic divining rod and sucks up their energy.
Yeah.
And completely depletes their rings. Now they're just dudes.
I love this moment where Sinestro's like, all right, Hal, time to see what you're like without the ring. And they're just about to throw fucking hands with this demon.
With the fucking demon, yeah.
Like, Hal's back in his fucking, like, flight suit.
Yeah.
Sinestro, at least Sinestro, like, kind of color coordinated because he's just wearing green and black.
Yeah.
It's just not the Green Lantern suit.
Yeah. So they're fighting in this cemetery, and
with William's victims.
Yeah. We do see that both of Hal Jordan's parents are buried here because William is hiding behind their tombstones.
Yeah.
And Hal has this like little monologue that says, you know, no one else had to watch their father die before their eyes. You know, that's what I thought most of my life. I thought I was alone growing up. The pilots who knew Dad would look at me with pity. When I begged to go on a flight, they always refused. And then when I flew myself, they looked at me with annoyance, thinking I was breaking all the rules. You know, that kind of deal. And he's like, no one ever looked at me with any kind of understanding. No one knew why I was the way that I was until I met Sinestro. Like, you kind of see that he's starting to really form that, like, friendship with Sinestro.
Yeah. Which, again, like I said earlier, Sinestro is like such a standout character for me in this. And I really like the fact that you get all this from him just to have that character moment of him falling. And, like, obviously I've never read it, but I can just tell how much of a gut punch that would be to someone reading it for the first time.
Yeah.
Especially if someone is like kind of going in blind, doesn't really know the character's outcome and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard because like a lot of media, when Sinestro is portrayed, like video games and stuff, he's already the Yellow Lantern. But I really like his character in this.
I do too. Yeah, Sinestro's very well done in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just start fucking duking it out with this fucking demon.
Everyone fisticuffs in the parking lot.
Yeah. And Sinestro's like, Hal Jordan, you should be fucking dead right now. Like, you're sitting here fighting this dude just with your fucking hands and feet. And
they're fighting like it's a fucking Waffle House.
Yeah, for real. That's when he pulls his, Sinestro pulls his lantern battery out of a pocket dimension. And Hal's like, what the fuck? How did you do that? And and fucking Sinestro is like, so Kilowog never taught you about pocket dimensions.
Yes. He's like, where's yours? And he's like,
and Sinestro says like, you have just redefined the word careless for me. It's fucking hilarious. I love it because it's like good cop, bad cop.
Yeah,
like it's so fucking funny. They recharge their rings, and they just fucking lay waste to Atrocitus. They beat the ever living shit out of them.
Yeah.
You know, Sinestro forms a giant Avenseur and like punches the shit out of him. Hal forms a fucking jet and crashes it right into him.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I'm pretty sure because at one point, Atrocitus is gonna throw that excavator on Sinestro. It's obviously fucking yellow.
Yeah.
And he throws that fucking jet into it to save Sinestro.
Sinestro?
Yes. And like fucking
blows it up.
Yeah, affects the yellow, and he's like, I fucking knew it.
Yeah.
I fucking knew it.
Yeah, I knew I could fucking do it. And Sinestro even comments like, that's not even possible.
Yeah, he's like, Sinestro's basically like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you definitely saw it happen. He's like, no, I didn't.
Nope.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so Sinestro forms a giant Kilowog and then crushes Atrocitus. Knocks him the fuck out, breaks every bone in his body.
Yeah.
William, he comes to, he sees the cosmic divining rod and he hides it in his coat pocket.
Yeah.
When Hal goes to make sure he's okay, William runs away.
Yeah, he just dips.
He dips the fuck out of it.
And it's like, okay, thanks, guy.
No. Hal and Sinestro have a little bit of a fight going on where, you know, Sinestro calls Hal reckless. You know, you're reckless, you don't listen. Yeah. You always want to be the like front and center.
Well, that's because he's bringing up the fact that he did affect the yellow.
Yeah.
And Sinestro's like, no, you didn't. Like, why are you trying to just
one up everybody?
Yeah. Which is funny because that's 100% Sinestro project.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And he says, you know, you need to get a hold of your anger because your anger almost got us killed.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just going to be you. It was going to be me as well. Like, you're weak. And Hal's like, you know, you're right. I am weak.
Yeah.
And he says, Ring, take me to Carl Ferris.
Yeah. See, for me, this moment, once they get Atrocitus and eventually taking him back to the Guardians and stuff, to me, I'm like, okay, that's where I'm like, okay, the beginning and the end have happened of the conflict, but then it keeps going.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that feeling of like, since I don't have a better word for the unfulfillment comes from, of it like it just keeps posing and posing these questions and these threads and stuff. I think that's where I think if they had made it to where the conflict with the Atrocitus ends after all those questions that they pose in this later half, if that conflict resolution happened at the end, I'd be like, okay, it feels more finalized and like complete.
Yeah. And again, I feel like it's only like that because it's a continuation.
Right.
Like there's more after this.
Right.
Because I feel like this does have a satisfying end if you look at it less from the perspective of what the action is,
Yeah.
and more of what the character is.
Which
If you're more interested, or if you take more priority in Hal's characterization,
yeah,
I think it does have a satisfying end because Hal comes to a conclusion.
I do feel a sense of like completing with Hal's kind of
arc.
Yeah. But I just, maybe it's just because of the way a lot of the books and other things that I read are written.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, it's just, you have that conflict resolution usually at the end of the story that's presented to you.
Right.
Just in my brain wiring, it's like, okay, conflict resolution and everything's wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
We're good to go. But obviously, like we've said a bunch of times, it's a continuation. There's more after that.
Yeah. So the ring takes him to Carl Ferris's home, where Carol is there.
Yep.
And she's like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Like, how the fuck did you even get this address?" And Hal's like, "I know your dad's here. Where the fuck is the old man?"
He's like, I asked Hammond.
Yeah. he is he barges his way in, and Carol's like, "You can't come in here. Like, you have to stop."
Yeah.
And he's like, he's ready to whoop this old man's ass, and he barges into Carl's room.
Yeah.
And that's where he sees that Carl is bedridden and not really even conscious.
Yeah, he's very, very sick.
He's very sick. And Hal is instantly like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, he's super shook because that's essentially his mom.
Yeah.
But he never got to see his mom, obviously. But like, his mom was dying from cancer and everything like that. Like, she was bedridden and everything. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like kind of that PTSD flashback of trauma of him just being like, oh, fuck, I'm now presented with a similar situation.
Yeah.
Because, like you said earlier, when we were first talking about it, he never got to say goodbye to his mom or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And he came here with the intent to, like, get these feelings of anger and stuff off his chest towards Carol's dad. And the fact that it's like, there's a chance I'm not going to fucking be able to say what I want to say to this guy either.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that kind of like throws him on his ass.
Yeah. And that's when Carol kind of reveals, like, our dads were best friends. And his death, your father's death, destroyed my dad. Like, he blamed himself and it made him sick.
Yeah.
Like, the regret and the anger he felt towards himself physically, like, fucked him up.
Yeah.
And, last year it just got too much to handle. And, he couldn't function anymore. And so I decided to take over. And I just chose to, like, basically hide the fact that I was running the business, because I didn't want people to be afraid that, like, they were going to lose their jobs and, stuff like that.
I really like the idea that with Carol telling him this, that, like, it kind of shows how I guess self-absorbed Hal has been in his feelings about his dad passing away. Because it never once crossed his mind that Mr. Ferris's, like, best friend, a guy he served in the military for, passed away.
No.
He just assumed that all he cared about was money.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting, like, character moment for Hal. Of, like, and it also reflects kind of how he's dealt and felt about his family as well. Because at one point, he's like, in the earlier issue and, like, chapter and stuff, whenever his mom picks him up from Arden, he says, like, in the notebook, like, narration, like, at the time I never understood my mother and she never understood me. And it to me, it's like, kind of like, this is showcasing, like, he never really truly tried to understand his family and, like, the other people around him. And I think this is where we're really starting to see kind of, like, the fruits of Hal's kind of, like, character journey
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just really, I really like this moment.
I agree. To me, this is kind of what defines the character right here. So yeah, Carol just reveals, like, you know, after mom died and after your father died, like, all he had left was the company. And like, I couldn't let that go away. And Jordan's like, that's not true. He still had you. And she's like, I was a little shit. You know, I was a spoiled brat who he got like, if I asked for something, he got it. But there was one time where I asked for something and he said no. And I threw such a tantrum and I told him that I wish mom was here instead of him.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it destroyed him. And he was like, or she's like, you know, he used to look at you and your dad and you guys would eat lunch together. And he would say, like, you know, oh, I wish I had a son like that. And, you know, Jordan says this really nice thing where he's like, if he knew me, he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's that moment of like, I'm not a perfect son.
It's like he's going through, you know, like Carol's telling him this and she's basically saying, like, I had a come to Jesus moment with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And her saying that in this conversation is like Hal coming to the point where he's like, oh, I'm about to have that moment myself.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's like, you know, you're here for your father. I've never been there for my family. Ever. And he, you know, he says, like, I've wasted my entire life, wasted all these years being angry at everyone except for myself, and no one deserved it.
Yeah.
Like, I've wasted my life, essentially.
Yeah.
And he just says, like, I'm sorry.
And yeah, just starts to leave.
Yeah, and he leaves, and you know, Carol's like, she calls him Hal instead of Jordan. And she's like, it's not easy, is it? And, you know, he asks her, like, what do you mean? She says, like, it's not easy being alone. And he, you know, comforts her and he says, like, you're not alone.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they smooch.
Yeah, they get a little smooch on.
Some nice trauma bonding.
I think it might just be a hug.
It could be. I don't
because of what he says, like, after this.
Yeah.
It could be a smooch.
It could be a smooch.
It could be like they're in their feelings.
Yeah, they're making bad decisions.
Yeah. Then we cut to,
I really like this movie.
Yeah, where it's like he's in the canyon.
Yeah.
Where him and his father flew, and he makes a construct of his father, and then it dissipates. Yeah. And it's kind of like him letting go of that, like,
loved it,
that regret.
It was a gret moment. Yeah. The art, obviously,
Ivan
fantastic.
Rice. Yeah, he knocks it out of the park.
It was a great moment. I was like, okay. Earlier I said, you know, like, this didn't really sell me on, like, reading more, but it wasn't, like, bad or anything.
Yeah.
It still made me have a new appreciation for the character.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely opened me up to, like, okay, like, everything that I knew about the character, which wasn't much, let's be honest, just kind of, like, I was like, getting that kind of new appreciation, like, oh, like, this could be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
Yeah. And then, you know, Sinestro, he finds Hal and he says, like, you just witnessed the true power of the ring. It's like, you know, you can create anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, Hal basically says, like, you were right. And he was like, but you weren't right about everything. Like, I held on to that anger since I was a kid. And that's been for nothing. And it hasn't helped anyone. But I'm still not going to change who I am because, like, that's like what my father would have wanted, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always going to be Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to become some subservient, like, drone just because I realized I made a mistake.
He's not going to be like what Kilowog kind of wants, where it's like, you do your duty, and that's your whole purpose.
Yeah, you fall in line. And then Sinestro basically says, like, berating you is my job, not yours.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, I've suffered great loss. And, you know, we find out some of that stuff later on.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it kind of, he comes back to that whole, like, you know, I still wouldn't have this ring. And it's like, I understand you more than you know. And, like, to be a Green Lantern is to struggle with loss.
Yeah.
That kind of deal.
Overcome it.
Yeah. You overcome that. And, you know, they kind of form that like really like mentor-student like relationship, and they have this newfound respect for each other. And then at the end of the chapter, that is when the Guardians summon them for trial on Oa because they have broken the territorial edict, and they now need to be punished.
Yeah, and that's when it kind of was like, that ring was telling them to fucking go. You know, before I realized kind of everything else, still sus.
Yeah.
Still sus ring.
So they get summoned to Oa in this final chapter. Everyone sees them get summoned. Like all the big players.
Yeah. Some of them are like, why the fuck is Sinestro with that human?
Yeah. And that is when we are introduced for the first time in this story, the Guardians of the Universe.
The fucking Oompa Loompas that run the show. Yeah. I don't like them.
Yeah, these guys are assholes.
They're fucking dickheads. A lot of dickheads.
It is funny because when they get there, Sinestro's like, please do me a favor, Jordan, and do not speak.
Yeah.
It is really funny. And it is funny. He says, these are the Guardians of the Galaxy, or Guardians of the Universe. They're so small. And Sinestro goes, shut up.
Yeah. Like, I fucking told you not to speak.
Yeah, because they're basically giving them the riot act, and they're just like, you know, you broke all these rules. You're not supposed to be intermingling.
And they're like, Sinestro, this isn't the first time for you either.
Yeah, and they actually acknowledge like this is Avensur's ring, but it's not Avensur. It's you know, it's someone different. And Hal's like, my name's Hal Jordan.
They're like, we know.
Yeah. And they essentially are like, Sinestro says like, I was following an escaped convict to this rookie's planet, and he had no way of dealing with him, and I needed to help him or else he would have died, and then you arrogantly ripped us away from that.
Yeah.
You know, I was trying to show him how to survive on his own, and the Guardians are like, well, that's the whole point of the territorial edict. It's so that way, you know, core members can fly on their own. They need to be independent.
And it helps them grow.
Yeah.
Get stronger.
And Hal's like, why?
Yeah.
Like he questions them, and they instantly are like, you do not question us.
And he's like, why?
Yeah, he's just, why? And he's like, we've lived for billions of years. Like we don't have to answer to you. And Hal's like, I think you're afraid.
Yeah.
And the Guardians freak the fuck out. They all in unison are like, we don't fucking feel fear.
Yeah.
You feel fear, you bitch.
Yeah. And I didn't even clock it.
Yeah.
Looking at the other panels of when he's on Oa.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, if you're not afraid, like, why are all the fucking buildings yellow?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
your citadel is all yellow.
I'm like, holy fuck. I didn't notice that.
That you're afraid that will turn on you.
Yeah. I'm like, holy shit. That was like, maybe it's just because I don't pay attention. But I was like, holy shit. How did I not fucking recognize that?
It's funny because after he mentions that, he's like, you expect us to overcome fear, but what do the Guardians fear? And when he says that, it's revealed that like all the Lanterns are like listening in on this trial. And he's like, you know, I think this edict is bullshit, and does the cannot translate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And the Guardians are like, okay, enough of this. We need to like talk to each other. Like your trial is put on hold.
Yeah.
Like while we deliberate and shit like that.
He fucking called them out.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah. And he's like, no, they don't say we'll put this on hold. He says like, you're going to be expelled.
Yeah.
And Sinestro's like, if you expel Hal Jordan, go ahead and expel me as well.
And Sinestro also is like, well, one of you told me to go to Earth.
Yeah, the one known as Ganthet.
And they're like, we don't take names.
Yeah, we don't take names because they don't see a need for them.
Yeah.
And that is when they're like, okay, we'll put this on hold while we, you know, figure out who this Ganthet is and shit like that. And they say like, just so you know, Sinestro, Hal Jordan is now your responsibility.
Yeah.
He's like, okay.
Yeah.
So we get a little afterwards, you know, scene with all the Green Lanterns, and Hal's trying to destroy the yellow dummy, and he's like, I've done it. I did it.
Yeah.
And Kilowog's like, no, you didn't. And Hal's like, I fucking did it. I swear to God, I heard it.
And Sinestro's there, and he's like, all right, I'm out. I'm tired of this game.
This is boring as shit.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just like a bunch of like co-workers hanging out together.
Yeah.
So Sinestro, he says goodbye to Hal. He's like, I'm gonna go take Atrocitus back to Yzmalt, so he can serve out the rest of his sentence, or his eternal sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I think he says in 1 month's time we will meet again, and in that time you need to basically like train and prove yourself to be a Green Lantern,
Basically be a superhero.
Yeah. And he says, next time we meet, you're coming to my planet.
Yeah.
Kind of like that really nice moment of like, fuck the edict. Like we need to work together. We need to lean on each other. And you can tell that like Hal kind of is rubbing off on Sinestro just a little bit.
They're like giving each other some attributes of one another.
Yeah. Hal returns back to Earth. He's talking with his buddy Tom, and it is revealed that, Hal still has his job and he's going to be flying. And Tom reveals that he rebuilt the plane that his father took him on.
Yeah, when he was young.
Yeah. And Hal, he's like, holy shit, like, you're amazing. And he's like, how did you even allow that? Or how did Ferris or Carol even allow you to do this? And he was like, it only took me like 3 weeks, and like we weren't really doing anything. And
yeah,
you're the only pilot, so like, what's she gonna do? Say no?
Yeah, and she funded getting it fixed too.
Yeah. And she, at that point, she walks up and she's like, I had no choice. You're my only pilot. And also, it's not Ferris. It's not Carol. It's Miss Ferris.
Yeah.
And Hal, he's like staring at her. She's like, what are you staring at? And he's like, honestly, the girl I'm having dinner with tonight. I love that. It is so funny. And she says, everyone knows, Jordan, I don't date employees.
See, his comment there, he's like so damn sure. That's why I think they smooched.
Yeah.
That's why I think they smooched, because he's like so damn confident about it.
Yeah.
And she doesn't like necessarily say it's not happening.
Yeah.
Because like the panel that she's like, I don't date employees, she's like smiling.
Yeah.
Like smirking like a, I might make an exception.
Yeah. So they reveal that Hammond is being kept in like a US like government type like prison. Of course he is fucking weird and disgusting looking. We cut to Coast City Hospital. Coast City Hospital. There's a security guard that goes to the mortuary, and he finds William Hand.
Probably
balls deep doing his thing, and William takes the divining rod and kills him.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we go back to Yzmalt, and Sinestro is re-imprisoning Atrocitus. And Atrocitus is like, I've seen your future too.
Yeah.
I've seen that you are the greatest Green Lantern, and I've seen your fall. And I've seen the fall of Korugar. Korugar is the name of his planet.
Yeah.
And he says like, there will be a civil war, civil unrest. There's going to be a coup.
Yeah.
Everything that you worked for will be destroyed.
See, this conversation between Atrocitus and Sinestro made me think like, maybe the inversions are not like clairvoyant in the sense of like they actually see the future, but like they basically make you do a self-fulfilling prophecy.
They know how to get in your head.
Yeah, so it's like, because Abin Sur, they're like, your ring's gonna fail you. Your ring's gonna fail.
Yeah.
Made him doubt the ring.
Yeah.
So therefore, it allowed them to overpower him because that's their source of power. So I feel like, I mean, obviously I could be wrong, but I was starting to get the gist that like they're not like super clairvoyant.
Mm-hmm.
They might be able to tell the future a little bit, but it's like we know enough to like just make you do this self-fulfilling prophecy shit.
Yeah.
I think that is like very much like the hint of like, you're gonna fall. You're gonna be, you're gonna turn to fear and be a yellow lantern and all that shit.
So at the end of this story, we cut to Hal visiting his parents' grave. He invited Jim and Jack to meet him there. Of course, Jack did not go.
Yeah.
And Hal says, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Like I've never been a good brother. to you guys. And Jim's trying to comfort him, saying like, that's not true. And Hal's like, no, it is. Like, don't baby me. This is true. He's like, I've never talked to you guys about Dad and why I became the way that I am. And he's like, I've never tried to be a part of your life.
Yeah.
But I want to be part of it. I want to be a good brother. And he says, I want to let you in. And then he reels his ring and the journal. And, Jim's like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is going on? And Hal transforms into Green Lantern. And he says, it's a long story, so I wrote it down for you.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because, like we've said, the narrations looks like it's been written down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, we've been reading his journal. Like, we're in the position
of Jim. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the end of Green Lantern Secret Origin.
Yeah.
And it's really good.
I liked it. I definitely didn't feel like I wasted any time or anything like that. Well, I've already discussed like my only qualm with it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to harp on it too much.
It's not the most thought-provoking thing in the world.
Yeah.
And like I can definitely understand the criticism of it doesn't feel complete.
Yeah.
It's just like, of course, I'm going to look at it from the perspective of like it's not going to because it's a part of a story.
Right.
That is like it's thrown in the middle of a run.
Yeah, I was going into it very much in the same vein as Superman Secret Origin.
Yeah, where Superman Secret Origin is definitely a standalone.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was expecting going into this. And so that's why it's a kind of a negative. It's not even really a negative. It's just like a takeaway from it.
Yeah.
But I liked it. It's a good like superhero origin story.
Yeah.
Like the writing and the dialogue's good. The art's fantastic. I thought it was a great read.
I can definitely understand the criticism of like, because I feel this way. The villains aren't interesting, but they're also not the focus.
Yeah.
It's definitely like the villains are just there to facilitate the action. The focus is definitely on Hal Jordan and his character arc.
I would say,
but I will also say that Atrocitus becomes a very interesting villain because this is like one of his first appearances.
I definitely thought Atrocitus was interesting enough in this.
Yeah.
They definitely made him more interesting than Hammond because Atrocitus, he kind of pushes the plot along in this. Hammond, though, other than being like this is a villain, other than that, I don't see a need for him in there.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, he's really just in there because he's a classic Green Lantern villain.
Yeah, so his being there is not really necessary, but at the same time, I enjoyed kind of like laughing at him. That I'm like, I don't care that he's in there.
Yeah.
It's different from like in Superman, that whole like going to the future thing where I was like, this is just completely unnecessary. Hammond's unnecessary, but at the same time, like I said, fucking laughing at him.
Yeah,
prime.
You're able to let that slip away because it's funny.
It is hilarious. Now in hindsight, also, I guess I wish I didn't know that William fucks dead bodies.
That he was supposed to be an homage to Bill
and
Finger.
all that. Like,
yeah, sorry I ruined that character for you.
That's fine. I mean, to be completely frank, the only time I'm going to read Green Lantern is when we do it for this. So it's not like you're ruining my day or anything. But yeah, like, I don't know. It was a good read.
Yeah, that's good.
I'd recommend it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I will say this book is kind of hard to find. This standalone story is not in print, I believe. I think you can only find this story in the Jeff Johns collection, which is 3 massive omnibus books. It is in volume 2. So you have to buy volume 2 to get it. So that's the only way you can really get, which, I mean, they're easy to get.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can get them on Amazon for pretty cheap. Not a lot of stores carry them, like physical stores.
You might get lucky.
Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, I recommend the story. Like, obviously, you kind of have to read it to understand Jeff Johns' like, run.
Yeah.
So if you aren't familiar with the character at all, you definitely should, do some research in the character, read a couple integral stories. Like Emerald Twilight is very integral to this because that's the story where he becomes a villain. Of course, in order to read that, you have to read Death and Return of Superman, because that event is what causes Hal Jordan to become a villain. Final Night, you have to kind of know. You don't really have to read it, but you just really need to know, like, Hal Jordan sacrifices himself to save Earth.
Yeah.
And you have to read 0 Hour Crisis in Time because he's the main villain of
that. So in actuality, you got to read a lot.
You got to read a lot of shit to understand it. But I don't think you do. You can definitely pick up Green Lantern Rebirth or, the Jeff Johns Omnibus, part 1, 2, and 3, and really understand the character.
Yeah. I think this does a really good job laying groundwork. For the most part, I feel like I have enough information that I can just keep reading and not necessarily be lost.
Yeah.
Other than maybe like Parallax, like you were saying, like kind of like some detailed kind of lore stuff. For the most part, just reading this, I feel like I have pretty much all the critical information that I need.
Yeah.
For everything that happens after this.
Yeah. And we'll definitely, obviously, we're going to read more Green Lantern. Like, we will have some stories before we get to Blackest Night that'll kind of help you really, like, understand the character.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll read, we'll eventually do Hard Traveling Heroes with Green Lantern and Green Arrow. We'll eventually cover Emerald Twilight. We'll do the Kyle Rayner run, or at least the, like, integral moments of Kyle Rayner. Eventually we will cover, those big stories that lead up to Hal Jordan's return.
Yeah.
Especially the way that we're doing all the DC books where we're kind of covering the origin stories, and then we're going to, like, start delving into, like, their later years.
Yeah.
You'll definitely see a lot of that stuff.
What is it? Aquaman, the last, no, we need to do Flash and Aquaman.
Flash Year 1 and then The Legend of Aquaman.
Yeah, so those, and then once we do those,
we're doing JLA Year 1.
Okay.
And then I think after that we're going to do The Long Halloween.
Okay.
Or no, we're going to do Trinity and then JLA Year 1, because Trinity is the first team up between Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and then JLA Year 1.
Yeah.
Oh no, actually, after, because I'm looking at it right now, after Flash and Aquaman, I think we're going to do Batman: The Long Halloween.
Okay. Yeah, we're doing pretty steady into the DC universe, which is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that just means whenever we get around to more Marvel stuff, you're gonna have to suffer through it.
That's fine. I mean, Marvel stuff, to me, is a little bit easier to jump around in.
Yeah.
Again, it's all one continuity, and so it's kind of hard to just kind of, like, pick a place to start and go.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with, like, jumping around to different points in Marvel history. I feel like DC just makes it easier to be like, okay, this is where you start.
Yeah.
And then this takes place in this year. This takes place at this point. You can keep going.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the days when we start delving into some serious Spider-Man stuff. Because even though there's definitely some arcs that I hate, we're gonna cover them.
Yeah,
and I'm excited to do those. Obviously, I'm super excited to do more Image stuff and independent studio stuff.
Yeah,
because that's the shit I love. We haven't talked about it much, but I'm also excited to eventually, when we get around to it, doing like a manga episode, or something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
We're excited to keep doing this and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'm very excited. We got a few episodes planned. We got some ideas brewing. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's very fun
for all 2 of our listeners. Let me tell you, it has been a blast.
Hey, one day we'll be at the same level as Mr. Beast.
Okay. All right. Okay.
One day.
I am glad you are so optimistic about our future as podcasters, but I'll let you have that one.
All right. I think that's about all we can say about the book.
Yep.
So, well, all right. This has been Comics with Friends, the bi-weekly podcast where two best buds get together, read a comic, talk about it, talk about what they love about the comic, what they didn't like about the comic, and we occasionally make fun of some fucking weirdos who don't know how to take no for an answer.
Jesus fucking Christ.
You're a fucking weirdo. All right. You guys have a great rest of the day, week, month, whatever you want. And we will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya, fucking nerds.